Right. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment was sent by email to the Asbury Park Press and CoStar, our official newspapers, on January 4th, 2021. And notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. Mr. Capoli?
Here.
Mr. Malango?
Here.
Mr. Grieg?
Here.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mr. Lisco?
Here.
Mr. Palmisano?
Here.
Mr. Zenovich?
Here.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to the April 22nd, 2021 Board of Adjustments meeting. Please join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, April. All right, let's take our administrative actions first. All right, can I guess, Mr. Kennedy, do you want to go over any of these applications?
Sure.
Actually here. Well, hold on. Can I get a waive of the reading and approval of the minutes from the March 25th, 2021 regular meeting and executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Grieg.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Malango.
Okay, Mr. Capoli?
I wasn't at those meetings until,
So you'll abstain?
yes.
Mr. Malango?
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Lisco?
Yes.
Mr. Palmisano?
Yes.
All right, next up, can I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the minutes for the March 30th, 2021 special meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Grieg.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Malango.
Okay, Mr. Capoli?
Abstain.
Mr. Malango?
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Abstain.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Lisco?
Yes.
Mr. Palmisano?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Kennedy, next up would be the resolution approving the application for John O'Connor at 417 South Lake Drive.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I got these resolutions out late, but this one was for the construct a front porch addition on an existing single-family home. And the only conditions of note, as I recall, were one, they were going to revise the plan so as to confirm that the porch would not exceed 40 feet in length. And then we also said, by the way, the board is aware that the applicant may further trim off a diagonal portion of the porch, and provided no formal variance relief is required, that change would not require any further board review. We also had a note confirming that there'll be no second floor porch and no railing on top of the porch. I think that was the gist of the board conversations, and confirming that the gutters will be installed on the front porch, and the applicant shall install a dry well at the site, the details of which shall be reviewed and approved by the borough engineer, and just making sure that nothing that they do was going to violate any site triangle easements, and the dry well would be installed and maintained in accordance with prevailing industry and best practice standards. So, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make sure that my notes were correct, that the second floor front porch and the or portion of the porch and the no railing on top, that really, those were, does that jive with your recollection?
It does, yes, Mr. Kennedy.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the resolution for the application of John O'Connor at 417 South Lake Drive? Thank you, Mr. Grieg.
I'll second it.
That was Mr. Fitzgerald. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Capoli?
Abstain.
Mr. Malango?
Yes.
Mr. Grieg?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Abstain.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Lisco?
Yes.
And Mr. Palmisano?
Yes.
All right, next up is the application for Anthony and Cynthia Longo at 1501 B Street.
Chairman, this was a resolution approving a demolition of the existing single-family structure and construction of a new single-family home on the site. And the conditions of approval of note where they're going to confirm that the air conditioning condenser is going to be located in a zoning compliant location. Additional landscaping going to be planted at the site, and that landscaping will be perpetually maintained and replanted and replaced as necessary. I think I said this twice. Mechanicals located in a zoning compliant location. And we also had here to conclude a note confirming that some type of aesthetically pleasing stone veneer material shall perpetually cover the foundation of the home so that the raw foundation is not revealed. And additionally, they're going to further confirm the placement of additional landscaping in the front of the home to further hide or mask or shield the foundation. And we also just wanted to confirm this. We are confirming that the home is going to be measured from the average grade, and upon completion will have a height of only 36 feet. I think they had initially applied for 38. And then one existing or diseased tree is going to be removed, and that additional landscaping shall be planted. The encroaching juniper bushes are to be removed. And then the height of the basement is not to exceed 8 feet, and that the basement is going to have a sump pump, and the sump pump will be pumped into a pop-up, which will not drain onto the sidewalk. And specifically, the sump pump will be connected to the existing inlet on the northwest curb line or directly to the sewer, either of which details have to be reviewed and approved by the borough engineer. Also, just confirmation that they're complying with the number of story ordinance and the half-story ordinance, because we did not grant any relief for that. And we also just said, got to make sure that that basement does not constitute a separate story, and good faith efforts to put the utilities underground. And Mr. Chairman, I think that was the gist of that.
Yeah, the only thing I'm not sure I had in my notes, I think the sump pump drain going into a pop-up and connecting into the storm sewer, those seem to conflict with each other.
All right, let me see.
I think it's just that they said they were going to connect it into the storm sewer if they could.
Okay, so
And I think Ted said, you said that was acceptable, right?
Good. Just into storm sewer. So if that's acceptable, we can adopt that as modified.
Does anybody have any objections on that? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the resolution for the application? Oh, I get the wrong one. Yeah, for the application of Anthony and Cynthia Longo at 1501 B Street.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo.
Okay, Mr. Capoli,
Abstain.
Mr. Malengo,
Yes.
Mr. Gregg,
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Abstain.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Lisco,
Yes.
Mr. Palmisano.
Yes.
All right, next up is the resolution for Marian and Raymond Walters at 121 16th Street. Mr. Kennedy.
All right, Mr. Chairman, this was for demolition of an existing single-family structure and construction of a new family home. And this resolution was a little bit more intense than our typical resolution, given the nature of the undersized lot. And just real briefly, to give you a flavor of some of the findings, we basically said that, among other things, the applicant's representatives testified that they, quote, can't save the existing home. And that was, basically one of the reasons that they were looking to demolish and reconstruct. And basically, we're aware that the existing home only contains approximately 965 square feet, and that what's ultimately being added was about 700 square feet. And you'll recall that this is what the testimony, the testimony indicated that the FAR calculation was, our FAR calculations were more easily utilized in lots that were, our calculation methodology didn't work so well with really small lots or really large lots. And I just want to make sure you're all okay with this. We said here that the testimony was that the applicant's personal health situation really was, a basis for underlying, one of the bases for underlying the need for this variance relief. And I said, well, I hope I said this compassionately, that we obviously are always concerned about the well-being of everybody, including the Belmar residents, but we have to be mindful that that personal condition is not a legally binding, legally recognized reason as to granting variance relief. And what, we obviously, that though it is a hardship for the applicant, it was not a hardship in the context of the variance relief, at least that aspect of it. But that notwithstanding, we have reviewed and approved the variances because they satisfied the legal standards. And we're also basically saying that I think you all sort of recognized that this was a tough application and it gave you a lot of issues to think about. And basically, you're going to say that if this is adopted, that at least right now, the staircase right now is non-compliant, just because it's so old and outdated. And basically, the testimony was that they could not get the any type of stair lift up to do that, but they're going to basically have an elevator here, and they're gonna, which we're gonna basically make the new structure, it'll be a compliant stairwell, which there's always value in converting a site from non-code compliant to code compliant. And we're also saying here that this width of this home, I think, I'm sorry, we're going to say that some board members were concerned about the number of variances, and we recognize that there are a lot of variances, and it's driven by the undersized nature of the lot. And we're aware that I think the existing lot is only, 27 feet wide, and that creates a very challenging situation, and that the proposed home, I think, is about approximately 17 feet wide. And when all is said and done, any further reduction in that would likely compromise the functionality and suitability and marketability of the home. And we're also going to say that you all had, as you should, questions and comments about the relief sought, and you consistently asked, are there any other options? Can we do this any other way? Can we address it to make this more conforming? And we did engage in that good faith debate, and they basically, we've all, based upon the testimony evidence presented, this appears to have been one of the best solutions that they could come up with. And we're also saying that right now there's no parking spaces. They do need a parking variance because 3 are required, and they're only going to provide 1. But we're at least recognizing that though there's still a deficiency, having 1 space is better than no spaces. And then the conditions basically were all impervious pavers to be utilized, additional landscaping to help minimize any adverse impact, the landscaping to be perpetually replaced. There was going to be some type of underground stormwater management system to be approved by the borough engineer, and the air conditioner to be a new and energy efficient air conditioning. And the only one I couldn't remember, Mr. Chairman, was, were we supposed to, I had conflicting entries on my notes as to whether, did we talk about flipping the air conditioning and the generator, or was that something we talked about but didn't necessarily impose as a condition?
I think we talked about it, and if I remember correctly, we only said that that generator was going to be in a compliant location. Okay,
so then I'll just change that to say that. So I'm sorry I went in so much detail there, but I know that was sort of a difficult one that we all, I think you all said, we're struggling with this. So if that's accepted, we can adopt that as modified.
Thanks, Mr. Kennedy. All right, can I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the resolution for Marian and Raymond Walters at 121 16th Street?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
John,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought Kevin read impervious pavers, but I thought that the discussion had been about pervious pavers for that one. Could you just double
I
check?
just must have been a mistake. I'm sorry. I should say pervious.
Okay, thanks.
So
Thanks,
no, to your point, I should enunciate better. So yes, so it'll be pervious. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else, anyone? All right, seeing none. All right, I got one motion to approve the resolution. Could I have a second?
I'll second
it.
I think that was Mr. Malingo. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Capoli,
Abstain.
Mr. Malango,
Yes.
Mr. Grigg,
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
All right, abstain.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Lisco,
Yes.
Mr. Palmazano.
Yes.
All right. That's going to bring us up to our applications unless there's any other business to go over. April, was there any change in the lineup tonight?
Yes, the application for Jeffrey Shapiro, 512 10th Avenue. Given the lengthy agenda we had, they asked to carry their application to our special meeting on May 13th at 6 p.m. without the need to renotice.
Okay. All right. Has anybody from the public spoken up on that or asked questions about that?
No.
Okay. All right. Mr. Kennedy, do you want to handle any legal announcement that we would need to
Sure.
do on that?
We're just going to say that application is going to be carried to April. What's the date again?
May 13th.
May 13th, 2021, presumably a remote meeting, and that there'll be no further public notice. And April, did they consent to extend the time frame?
Yes.
Perfect. So, Mr. Chairman, we should just have a motion to carry that, and then we can move on.
All right. Can I have a motion to carry the application for Jeffrey Shapiro at 512 10th Avenue to our next meeting on May 13th, 2021?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Hey, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
And Mr. Chairman, can I just do one other real quick thing? And if I zoned out and missed this, I apologize. But just for record-keeping purposes, notice of this meeting was, in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, was publicized in the borough's 2 official newspapers. It was posted at Town Hall, filed with the Borough Clerk's office, put on the website, and importantly, that notice contained the login information for our remote meeting. So it would be my opinion, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the board, that this is a duly advertised meeting of the Belmar Zoning Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Is there any other change to the lineup, or we jump right into our first application? All right.
Well, actually, if we want to address it now rather than later, on the Verizon application, out of the 8 members that are present, we only have 4 eligible to vote on it.
Oh. Okay. April, are you expecting any additional people tonight?
No.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, why don't I text with the applicant's attorney once we start this other one. And unless April, is Rich DeLucre on right now?
He is. I'm going to bring him forward right now.
Mr. Chairman, should we bring him forward?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
He's here by phone.
Okay. Hey, Rich.
I think he's on mute.
Dial *9 to unmute. Yep. You have to unmute yourself. I can't unmute you.
April, I did watch the video. I don't know if that's helpful. To the
Okay,
November board meeting.
you did? Okay, I just have to get you a form to sign that you did that.
That brings us up to 5, April.
5, yes.
Okay, Mr. DeLucre still might have some issues with that.
Yeah, Rich, you have to unmute your phone or on the actual phone or dial *9 to unmute. Let me see.
And Anne Marie, thank you for listening. That's I know it's not always a fun thing to do, but it's important. So thanks.
You don't think listening to
So
the
true.
Verizon application was a fun listen?
It was very informative. It was very,
There we go. Rich, or no, he didn't unmute yet. He's having some issues.
You want me to go offline and try calling him on his cell phone?
I'm okay with that. If
Sure.
it doesn't need to be on the record. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kevin.
Yeah.
All right, just give me 2 seconds.
April, can I also review the videos or whatever to make us more in compliance?
Yes.
Um,
They're all online. I'll email you the link.
Okay. And then I'll view them all. April, while we're waiting, other meetings, have we added any to the normal months list yet?
Yeah, we're doing 2 in May.
Okay,
We added May 13th.
okay. 27th and the 13th.
Let me double check that. Yes, the 27th and the 13th.
April, is there any talk of doing meetings in person again in the town?
No.
No.
I guess it'll hinge on when the governor sets everything free.
April?
I would
Yeah.
imagine it'll hinge on everything if the governor sets everything.
I'm on phone with Rich DeLucre,
Okay.
and he's wanted to know, he was just going to confirm with his records that there's only 5 voters. So who are the 5 eligible voters tonight?
We have Mr. Malengo, Mr. Fitzgerald, Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Lisco, and Ms. Drazenovich.
All right.
Question I would have then, I think Mr. Malongo was down in Massachusetts, so back in November.
I don't know if you heard that, Mr. Malongo. There is a question. He wants to know, did you recuse yourself from this application at the November meeting? Do you know?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been part of the
I have no-
application.
Yeah, I have no record of that either.
And April has no record of that either. So, I mean, I guess here, I don't want to put pressure on you. And if you want to adjourn, that's, you can adjourn. And if you need to think about it, we'll go back to the other application and come back to Mr. Chairman. We can come back to him after the next application. If is that correct, you think?
I think that's
Rich,
acceptable.
if you want to adjourn now, just tell us. And if not, if you want to think about it, talk to your client, we'll go do our other application, then come back to you.
Yeah, let's go with the second option. Thank you.
Okay. So we're just gonna not do anything right now and talk to your client and then get back to us and we'll put you on conference call again. Thanks. Okay, great. Thanks. Bye-bye. All right, sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. So he's going to try to work out his computer issues, but also he's going to speak to his client. So I guess we should just, but good call, April, bringing that up.
All right.
All right, thanks, everybody. All right, so we're up to our first application. It's going to be James Caverly at 1012 Main Street. And if I could just remind everybody to make sure you're on mute unless you're actually presenting or speaking. Thank you.
And then, Mr. Chairman, as the, well, in the pre-pandemic days, as I would say, as the applicant's team comes forward, we'll just do a couple of real quick things. If there's anyone here who had any questions or comments regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received, they should probably speak now, either raise hand icons and or contact our board secretary at.
Clerk@belmar.com.
Okay, and so if you have any questions or concerns about notice only, contact us. And what we'll do, Mr. Chairman, we'll swear in Ted Bianchi. Ted is our zoning officer and construction official. Good evening, sir. Do you swear that the testimony information you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us. And this is, let's see, A1 will be the application package. A2 is the architectural plans prepared by Gregory Ralph, architect, dated February 9th, 2021, consisting of 7 sheets. A3 is the structural plan consisting of 6 sheets prepared by Steven Savino, undated, and the board engineer's office note that the plans were not signed or sealed. A4 is a survey of the property prepared by Mark Safone, Lakeland Surveying, dated May 14, 2019. No revisions, and it notes that that survey is not to scale, but that'll be A4. A5 is the review memorandum from Leon Esavakian Inc., dated March 5th, 2021. I think that's it. And April, has anyone asked to comment on the notice?
No.
Okay.
Kevin, I
And
think you might be missing some exhibits.
oh, okay. Let me make sure.
There should be a minor land use denial from Ted.
All right, so we'll mark that as A6, the minor land use denial.
And there's one. Did you
Oh, so I do have that zoning permit denial.
okay. There should be a total of 7.
All right, so we have 6.
There's the architectural plans, the survey you had. Then there's a 1-page sheet by Gregory Ralph.
Okay, that's what I'm missing. So A7 is the 1-page sheet. Gregory Ralph. Thank you, April.
Yep, that one. I'll give you the date. It is 11/11/20. It's the general notes and zoning.
Perfect. If you think of it, shoot that up to me tomorrow. Assuming I don't find it within the last 3 minutes, but I won't admit that. So, all right, April, has anyone asked to be heard about notice?
No.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, April and I reviewed the notice and I found everything to be in order. So it'd be my opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed.
Thanks, Mr. Kennedy.
All right, and I see Jeff Beekman here, the applicant's attorney.
Yes, present. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Jeff. Why don't you enter your appearance, and Mr. Chairman, we should let him take it away.
Thank you. Jeffrey Beekman of the Beekman Law Firm, Ocean Grove, New Jersey. I represent James Caverly and Buskerdoo Coffee. On the line, I see that Mr. Caverly is present. And in addition to that, we have our architect, Greg Ralph, who is also present for the hearing this evening. Just a brief background of my client. So my client is a potential tenant of this property. The tenancy is subject to getting approvals in order to be able to operate. The property itself is at the corner of 11th Avenue and Main Street. And one of the variances that is associated with this property is because there is a single family dwelling on the easterly side of the property, on the westerly side of the property facing Main Street, we have a 3-unit commercial space, and in between those two buildings, there is I guess what's somewhat haphazard parking lot now that will require some improvements in connection with any zoning approval related to this application. So with that,
Hey, Jeff, can I just ask a real quick question, just so we can do an internal conflict check here? I believe, is it that the owners of the property, is it James Caverly?
The applicant is James Caverly.
Okay.
The owner, James, who is the owner of the property?
Scott. At least he's the landlord that I'm dealing with, and I don't have his last name at the moment.
Okay, and then
give me a minute. I'll look on the tax map, the tax records, just to see. I did not write down his name.
No problem. And then Buskerdoo Coffee and Baking Company, is that the principals of that are Mr. Caverly?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. Yes.
Oh, here it is. Let me see. Is it the Kai Peter, the applicant, or?
No, he works with Greg, our architect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the applicant is the tenant, James Caverly and Buskerdoo.
Okay.
The owner is 1012 Main Street, 1012 Main Realty LLC.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I was hoping to have the owner on this evening, but we have not been able to get in touch with him. He has consented to the application, my understanding from the submission of the application, but we have not been able to coordinate with him what we think are going to be some of the questions that will come up from the board this evening.
Okay. So noted. Mr. Chairman, we just always like to, for members of the public who are listening, we always like to flesh out any conflicts. So anyway, hearing the names that we've heard, ladies and gentlemen, any conflicts or potential conflicts or questions about conflicts? Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I guess we turn it over back to Mr. Beekman.
Sounds
Mr.
good.
Kennedy-
Take it away.
Oh, Mr. Kennedy, the gentleman that Mr. Caverly was talking about is Scott Leon.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
April knows everything.
Leon.
Scott. Okay. Now that we've heard that name, does that cause any issues with people? Great. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Beekman, good evening.
Great, thank you. Good evening. So actually, I guess, Kevin, do you normally swear in all of the witnesses at once, or do you want to swear them in as we introduce them?
Sure, I can swear them in all at once. So who are we going to list?
So we're going to have James Caverly and Greg Ralph, if you both can unmute yourselves.
All right. And James Caverly, if you could just spell your last name, please.
CAV, as in the state of Vermont, ERLY.
And you're testifying tonight as the applicant and the principal of that company or an affiliate of that company?
Correct.
Okay. And just for the record, your address?
20 Griffin Place, Wanamassa, New Jersey, 07712.
Okay. And Mr. Ralph, if you could just state your name and business address, please.
Yes, Gregory Ralph. Business address is 1924 Route 22 East, Bound Brook, New Jersey, 08805.
And just so you know, I spoke to you yesterday on the phone on an unrelated matter. I'm Kevin Kennedy, small
I
world.
made the connection. Yes, hello.
On another application in another town for which I'm board attorney. But if you all could both raise your right hands, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Okay, let the record reflect that both witnesses have been sworn. And Mr. Ralph, before you testify, you can just briefly give your license qualifications, but you can do that later on when Jeff's ready for you.
Agree.
Thank you. So, Mr. Caverly, you are the owner and operator of Busker Do Coffee.
Correct.
And with Busker Do Coffee, do you have other locations?
Yes, we do.
How many locations do you have?
We own and operate 5 locations in total.
And where are your locations at this time?
Asbury Park, Monmouth Beach, Fairhaven, Red Bank, and inside Bellworks, which is located in Homedale.
Okay, and you have entered into a potential lease in order to operate your coffee and bakery shop at Main Avenue and 11th Avenue?
Yes, I have.
And that property is identified as 1012 Main Street?
Correct.
Can you give the board a little bit of background of your business and what it supplies?
Absolutely. So we're Busker Do Coffee and Baking Company. We are a coffee roastery and a bakery. We do a retail establishment in which we bake on premises and serve extremely fresh coffee. All of our locations are in Monmouth County, New Jersey. Let's see, each of our shops have a staff of about 5 to 8 people, and we offer strong pay, health benefits, and soon we're going to be starting an IRA profit share program. In regards to deliveries, we don't take much deliveries. I counted 6 times per week, individual times per week. We receive deliveries from our own Ford delivery van, or from Bailey Dairy, our dairy company, a local dairy company, in a small box truck. Another thing I wanted to note is we are 90% grab and go. We do have tables. Most of the time people grab coffee on their way to work or to the beach. When people do stay, it's 10-20 minutes with a neighbor or a friend. And then we only designate 2 tables for laptop use, so we don't have any people just staying there all day and making it their office. And the other thing I want to note is trash. All of our shops use a small enclosure for trash, and we have very little food waste, partially because we're mostly coffee, partially because it's, again, 90% grab and go. So there's some details.
And going back to your 90% grab and go, where do you get your data from?
Our Toast POS system, which logs everything. It's all online, and just observation. I mean, it's so back and forth. We, all of our shops at most have maybe 4 tables.
Okay.
And,
so if drivers come, it's a pretty quick turnover with drivers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, in Fairhaven, we have 2 spots, and we have people coming and going all day long.
And what are the normal hours of your operations?
All of our shops, well, except for Bellworks, but this one will, and generally shops open up at 6 a.m. and we close at between, depending on the town, but 5 or 6, maybe 7 o'clock.
And if you look at the hours in the day between that, let's say 6 and 6, where's the bulk of your time frame when you have customers?
Our big rush is between 7 and 10 a.m. and then it's generally steady for the rest of the day. We'll get another bump around 2:30, or between 2 and 3:30 for the afternoon coffee. But really the place is jammed in the morning, and then it is just nice and steady for the rest of the day.
And then that afternoon, when you say you might get a bump, is that close to what you have in the early morning hours?
No, it's in the direction of it, but I wouldn't call it close. Say almost close. We'll do 40 transactions an hour in the early morning. And then in the afternoon, it's more like 20-25. Again, 90% grab and go.
And how much do you see in your business, like a backup or a wait?
We don't. That's something we pride ourselves on is when there's a line to the door, that person in the back gets their coffee very quickly. We know that in coffee, it's not only the deliciousness that you leave, but it's the experience and efficiency. You can only make money in a coffee shop if you're efficient. If it's slow, you're not going to last.
And as far as your service, you indicated that you generally have 5 to 8 employees.
Yep.
Are they working the entire shifts?
No, we have a morning shift and a night shift occasionally, and not a night shift, morning shift and an afternoon shift. Oftentimes they're like that third person would come in at 8 and might stay till close. And that's, you know, a quote unquote, like 9 or 10 hour double.
And so with your 5 to 8 employees, are there as many as 8 people at any one time?
Oh, no. I see what you're saying. No. That's generally for the entire, you know, week. At most we'll have 3 people working at a time. And that's only either in the morning we'll have 3 baristas. We can't have more than 3 if there's too many cooks in the kitchen at that point. Or we'll have 2 in the afternoon, and then we'll have 1 person roasting coffee or baking or bagging coffee or doing any other side work, but never any more than 3 people at a time.
Okay, and how's the bakery work in this time?
It's a par bake system. We do the actual, like the science behind, like the real bakers work at our establishment in Asbury Park. And we send it over twice a week, either frozen or cold. And then every morning they finish it off. So ham pies, for example, you'll get the inside of it, and then just the, well, let me give you a different example. Muffins. We'll make all the batters in Asbury Park. We ship the batters, and then they get there at 5 in the morning, just scoop, bake them off, and then put them out on display. So it's not, we're not delivering 7 days a week.
Okay. So the bulk of the bakery prep work is all done at off-site and then brought to the site?
Yes. Yeah. The prep work's done off site, and then it's finished off each morning on site.
And if you could just provide a little more detail about your deliveries and just explain times and types of trucks, how are those made?
Sure. So a coffee delivery will be delivered by our van. That's green coffee. It's those classic sacks of green coffee, about 150 pounds. We'll probably deliver that once a week, maybe even just twice a month. That's in our Ford Econoline van. We get it from our warehouse up in Perth Amboy, and then we just drive it down. Bakery will be delivered twice a week. Again, that'll be in another van. That's in one of those Mercedes refrigerated vans, kind of tall, but they're not, you know, it's 4 wheels. Bailey Dairy has a small box truck. That's twice a week. And then our rag company is twice a week. No, I'm sorry, they don't even come. We send it to Asbury Park, and they just come to Asbury Park. So that's pretty much it.
So that's like your linens when you say your rag?
Yeah, but they don't even come to us. We'll pick them up and we'll bring them to Asbury, and then they just come to Asbury. So don't even count that.
So other than the Bailey trucks, you own the other trucks or delivery vehicles?
Yep. Yeah.
So,
oh, I'm sorry. There's one more. Country Clean Paper Supply. Again, it's another box truck, 4 wheels. That's our cups, napkins, bags. Forgot about them. They're I think they're generally once a week, but they can be up to twice a week, because if we run out of something, they'll bring it to us. But it's not often.
Okay. And as far as the deliveries themselves, how long are those vehicles on site to do the deliveries?
Not long at all. I mean, I saw Matt, our dairy guy, this morning. He made 2 trips on his dolly, stacked up with crates, just 2, back and forth. We gave him a coffee. He was out in 5 minutes. It's very fast. And then for us, it's when we do deliveries, it's going to be at 5 in the morning. And that, yeah, again, when Rich did ours this morning in Fairhaven, where I was at 5:30 this morning, again, it was about 6-7 minutes.
And when the vehicles pull up, do they turn their engines off?
They don't. They might. I don't know, but they don't. They certainly don't have to. I mean, it's in and out. I can remember this morning hearing the radio blaring, WFAN. That's what Rich was listening to this morning. So I don't think he didn't turn his car all the way off. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you notice any large noise when they do deliver?
No. In fact, he kind of scared me this morning when he opened the door.
And how many days a week are you open?
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
Mhm.
As far as other type of traffic, what would you say the difference is between vehicular traffic and maybe walking, bicycles, those kinds of traffic?
Depends on the town. I mean, I expect a lot of bicycle traffic in Belmar for sure. Yeah, and then in the morning, you know, we get a lot of people on the way to work. It's definitely our bread and butter in the morning between 7 and 9. So then people are in their cars at that point.
And do your employees provide much in the way of table service?
We don't do any table service. You either place your order on our mobile app and you just pick it up, or you walk into the register and we're behind the bar, they're in front of the bar. We take their order, we make it, and we drop it off in anywhere from 15 seconds to 2 minutes.
Okay. And the exterior, let's talk about the interior space. How many tables do you expect to have it in the interior space?
We're looking at, I think, 5 to 6 two tops. And then we're hoping to do on the front windows, because it's like it's a corner location. So we have the window here, the door here, and then 2 windows there. We're hoping to do just bar seating right against that window so people can sit on a stool and just watch the world go by. And I think just probably we're going to fit maybe 3 or 4 stools on either side. So in terms of actual seating, I'm thinking 10, 14 seats.
Okay. And how long would you expect the average seat to be utilized?
Not long, honestly. 7 or 8 minutes on average.
Okay. When they're being used, are they used while they're waiting for their coffee and bakery items?
Not really. That's a really good question. Not really. People are standing and kind of waiting. You know, they're looking at the pickup station to see when it's coming out. So I mean, sure, they could sit down if there's a free seat. But in fact, now that I'm thinking of the Belmar plans, the pickup station is actually closer to the door than the seat. So if they're sitting at the seats, they're not really going to be able to see where if it comes up, you know, if they don't hear us or they don't see it.
How many of your customers tend to use the app as opposed to come in and order?
Because of the pandemic, a lot more than I would like, because it costs 10 cents. My daughter's trying to get on screen. She's waving to all of you. Yeah, it's a lot, sweetie. This is boring adult stuff. Get out of here. It's
your best customer.
Yes, absolutely. Never pays though. Sorry, can you ask that question again?
I'm sorry. So I was asking how many of your customers utilize the app as opposed to coming in and ordering?
Yes. So right now, because we only just reopened 3 out of our 5 stores are currently open for walk-ins. They haven't really adjusted yet. So now it's like 75% mobile app, 25% walk-ins. I suspect that's going to slowly come back to normal. And for the other store, we have 2 stores that are just a table outside because of the pandemic, and that's like 90% mobile app.
Okay. And with respect to your application for this site, there's nothing that you're proposing with the existing single-family structure. Is that correct?
Correct.
So anything on site has nothing to do, they're really independent of each other. Is that accurate?
Correct. I didn't even know there was a single-family unit until you brought it up
and
pointed it out to me.
If you looked at this property, that single family, just like you said, you didn't even know it was there. If you looked at this property, you would think that single family residence is associated with the residences that are towards the east of this property, towards the beach.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It just looks like another house with all the other houses.
Okay. Those are the only questions I have for Mr. Caverly, just about the history and his establishments.
Thanks, Mr. Beekman. We hold all our questions till the end.
Okay, great. That would be public too? You hold the public till the end?
We do, that's right. We let the applicant go through all their testimony. Then we'll have board questions, public questions, then board comment.
Great, thank you, Mr. Lisco.
Sure.
So, Mr. Ralph,
Hello.
if you can, and Mr. Kennedy had indicated this, can you provide the board with your background and your licenses, please?
Correct. So I hold a Bachelor of Architecture from Roger Williams University. I've been working in the field of architecture for 13 years. I've been registered as an architect in New Jersey since 2011, and I'm currently in good standing. And I have testified before a variety of both planning and zoning boards throughout New Jersey.
And you were, I would, based on that testimony, I would offer Mr. Ralph as an expert in architecture.
We certainly accept those credentials. Welcome here, Mr. Ralph.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Have you ever appeared before the Belmar board?
I have not.
Okay. So, Mr. Ralph, you were hired by Mr. Caverly and Buscadoo Coffee to provide some architectural plans relative to what's being proposed this evening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And can you just describe what you're proposing to do and obviously the facility itself?
Yes, and if I may, I believe I have the ability to screen share. May I share the same set of drawings that you are looking at?
Yes.
This is within my software, but it's the same sheets and the same date that was noted at the beginning of this in the exhibit. So can everyone see this okay?
Yes.
Great. I'm going to keep it brief. I just want to hit on the high points of the scope of work. And then I am prepared to, if Mr. Beekman would like, speak to some of the engineer's report items as they relate to the site. But I will first just start with a quick overview. So we have the tenant fit out, which is up on the screen. We had received a shell set of drawings from the property owner. We had then visited the site and we created this design with Mr. Caverly, which has the dining area and front of house area abutting both Main Street and 11th Avenue. And it has the service area and the kitchen area to the rear of the building and to the interior side of the building. There was square footages noted, but I'll just restate them. We have 1,775 square feet of gross usable interior space. And then as noted on the engineering report, we have 1,982 square feet of gross leasable area, whereby we include the wall thickness and demising wall. So his leasable area is that number noted in the engineering report, and that was used for the parking calculations. The dining area itself comprises about 550 square feet of that area. And as noted in Mr. Caverly's testimony, I'll just reiterate, we do show 5 two-tops, and we do show bar areas at the glazing that's proposed as part of the overall building renovation. I will also say that our focus was on the interior of the space primarily. The Mr. Savino plans that were submitted as an exhibit were not created by our office. They were given to us as a reference of what was planned for the overall building. I can also speak briefly to the outdoor area on the Mr. Savino plans, which again, if I may, since those are already noted as an exhibit, I'll just bring those across. A proposed outdoor seating area is shown and dimensioned, and the engineer in their review called out rightfully that at 18 feet by 41 feet, it's approximately 735 square feet of outdoor space. I am not sure that we would consume all of that space per se, but that was what was offered to us in lease negotiation as an area that could be designated to outdoor seating. And so we do not honestly have a firm and fixed plan for exactly how many seats or how large, but there is definitely an intent by the applicant to have large doors as shown in our drawings that open up completely and do connect to an outdoor seating area. I can, Mr. Beekman, I can speak to the site triangle if we would like. And then, as I said, I can.
Before you do that, Mr. Ralph, So though that doorway area you're talking about, that is going to be like some kind of a bifold set of doors?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the popular brands is a nano wall whereby the wall folds completely open on good weather days and provides a direct connection to the neighborhood.
And with respect to the access, the interior two tops, as it was called, are they going to be permanently fixed?
It would not be our intent to permanently fix them. They would be movable two tops.
So if need be for room and getting around those doors that are being proposed, they might have to be relocated.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bathrooms are provided?
Two ADA accessible bathrooms are provided by the landlord, and we reflect where they are on our drawings.
Okay, it appears that one of those bathrooms is available to the public. The other one is not?
That's correct.
So based on your testimony, approximately a third of this interior space is dedicated toward the public.
Yeah, that's correct. And just clarifying, there's some circulation areas around here that might be used for queuing, and there's the roaster in the corner that would be visible from the street. But a lot of this is dedicated to the flow of people. So yes, the public would occupy about a third to a little less than a half of the space.
Okay. And understanding that you're designing an interior space for a coffee and bakery, do you feel that there's sufficient existing storage?
There is. And just briefly on the access, which I'm realizing I failed to mention, this door faces the corner of the primary entry off of the sidewalk would be the corner of Main and 11th. This large door would face 11th, and then there would be two entry points, one for customers who park in the rear and another entry point for employees and deliveries from the rear parking area. So I just want to highlight that flow on site.
Now, of those doors, how many are going, or what's being proposed, how many are new?
Let me pull up this one is existing by the submitted drawings. This entry is existing. So the only change was just potentially shifting the rear access to the kitchen, but all other doors that we show were proposed as part of the original application by the property owner for building renovation.
Okay, so there's two existing?
The only caveat to that is what has actually been done on site, which I'm not 100% clear on, but I can say that three of the access points, rear, large opening, and front, we kept that location in our drawings.
Oh, so the large opening is already there?
That was proposed and is framed, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. It's just framed though.
Correct. Yes, the door
Okay.
itself is not there.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the outdoor space. In particular, one of the comments from in Mr. or Leon Savakian's letter relates to the site triangle.
Yeah, so this is going to be new information that was not submitted. So how do we mark this?
Well, why
Or
don't
do
you
we not?
bring it up for identification purposes?
So I have created a drawing which is on the marked exhibit survey that was submitted as part of the application. And then in my software, I have set it to scale, and I have used the 25-foot offset from right-of-way lines to create the site triangle that I believe to be accurate based on the ordinance.
And if we may, and obviously, since this was not submitted ahead of time, we would like to add this to our exhibit since it is a markup of an existing exhibit.
Sure. So we are up to what?
A8.
Eight?
Mhm.
All right. So we're going to mark this as A8. And just for the record, Mr. Ralph, this is prepared by you?
I prepared this markup today, actually, yes.
Okay. And
If you
so-
could email me a copy of it, please.
Yes, gladly.
Thank you.
So I took the property line. I did two diagrams. I did one on this curb line and then in speaking with Mr. Beekman, I did one which you're viewing, which is taking the property line, which should be the right-of-way line, connecting that, and then offsetting it 25 feet to scale, which I'm confident in the scale plus or minus 6 inches on my markup, and then providing that diagonal line to connect the 2 points. And why I feel confident in it is because based on the survey provided, it actually aligns with the clip of the facade of the building, which would make sense from the initial construction. And then this green hatched area is the area to scale that was proposed in the Mr. Savino drawings that we too replicated as possible outdoor seating. And I can say on behalf of the applicant that they would be more than happy to abide by the 30-inch height limitation to this portion that might encroach. And they would also be happy to abide by the 1 foot maximum pole size to anything that might be within this corner. So what this does show is that there's an unencumbered area of the site triangle of approximately 25 feet that could be entirely outside of this site triangle where deemed accurate. And there would just be a small portion of the corner that might encroach. But again, the applicant would be happy to abide by the ordinance in terms of heights of anything within that site triangle.
Okay. Thank you. And you actually had prepared a diagram relative to the parking lot as well as part of your plans. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Could we bring that up?
I believe you're referring to what is on drawing A1 of the submitted and marked exhibit, which I now have on my screen, correct?
Okay. And just to be clear, obviously for the board, you are not an engineer, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So this is not really a site plan from the standpoint, it was not prepared by an engineer.
It was not prepared by an engineer, correct?
Okay. So with respect to the parking lots, let's go through the Avakian letter if we can.
Correct. Yes, I have comments on almost every item insofar as I can comment on them. I'm going to move it over to my other screen so I can see it.
So I'm going to start with number 2, zoning and land use.
Yes.
What's being proposed here and confirmed by the letter, the bakery and coffee shop is a permitted use for the CBD1 zone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And again, it's also your understanding that nothing is being touched related to the single family dwelling that sits on the east side of this property. Is that correct?
Yes, I agree.
The parking lot that you're showing here, is that generally the parking lot area as it exists today on this site?
It in fact is. There is a large large paved field, although not striped, in the same location and reflected on the submitted survey, into which we created this layout.
Okay. So with respect to this proposal, it is before the board because of a use variance, but there's also this component of a site plan that the board has jurisdiction to review as well. Is that accurate?
That's my understanding, correct.
Okay. But you were only hired by the applicant here, Buskerdu and Mr. Caverly, and not by the landlord?
That's correct.
Okay. And it's your understanding under the terms of Mr. Caverly's lease with the landlord that the landlord is required to do any site plan modifications?
Yes, and to that point, this was not fabricated from our minds alone. This came from a site meeting with myself, Mr. Caverly, and Mr. Leone, probably late 2020, if not early 2021. But this general arrangement was discussed and agreed to, which gave us the confidence to show it for this application.
Okay. We have actually discussed that there probably are some deficiencies with what's being proposed.
Correct.
And in the Avakian letter, and I'm going to reference, let's see, it's number, where is it?
Asked about the parking spots.
4B. If we can go to 4B on the letter.
Yes,
He references questions about spaces 1, which is in the north, I guess that would be the northeast corner, as well as
yes, correct, northeast,
the northeast corner of the parking lot, not of the property,
correct.
as well as 11 through 12, which is directly adjacent to the dwelling itself.
Correct.
Right.
11 through 14, which are abutting the
I'm sorry.
commercial space, correct.
Correct. The 4 spaces abutting the commercial space. In light of that, in our discussion, it's probably more likely that 9 spaces can be provided as opposed to the 14 that are shown.
That may be the case after final layout, correct. We just for the sake of clarity, we had thought that perhaps spaces of this nature might be beneficial for employee style parking, but again, we can't comment on that beyond speculation from our point of view.
And when you've designed this, did you look at the general area?
I did.
And did you notice whether there are a lot of these commercial spaces fronting Main Street that have parking like this situation?
I did not take note either way, to be honest.
Fair enough. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the other issues raised by the letter.
So I have items C through K with notes if you want my quick response to those for the record, or we could go one by one. It's up to you.
And we're talking about section 3?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's start with C.
So item C was the site triangle, and I do feel like I provided clarity on that with the exhibit A8 that we're submitting, and our agreement that we would comply with any height restrictions if in fact we do encroach. Item D makes a comment on the overall parking, and I will say that when through our engagement with the applicant, what we focused on, and this was highlighted in the letter, was the calculation for the Bouskerdue for the applicant's location specifically, and demonstrating that we had the potential parking on site for that use, if not in excess of that use. So I take no exception to that comments in item D, and that is in fact why we had requested that design waiver. For item E, while I can't specifically attest to the shared use parking behind this building, I do think it's relevant to note the testimony by Mr. Caverly related to the duration of patrons on site, as well as related to the peak times. I do feel that with the 7 to 10 a.m. as the bulk of the traffic on site, and then a steady, however not as intense, traffic pattern throughout the day, that there would be compatibility with retail uses that in general would tend to have business hours that would start a little bit later and may then even go a little bit later into the evening. So we felt that generally speaking, there was potential compatibility for shared parking.
Okay.
Regarding item F, they did note that we do have the 9x18 minimum space, and that these spaces, whether or not they are to be considered, we would have the space on the site to enlarge them if through site design, we felt that these actually were functional as longer term or employee parking, as that person would come and stay for the day. So I just wanted to point out that it would be possible to bring a few of these into compliance, potentially as a condition of any approval or a revision.
Mr. Chairman, can I be recognized, please, if you don't mind?
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Fitzgerald, but we are trying to hold most of our questions to the end of the testimony.
I completely understand that, John, but this is important. You're referencing a letter and going through notes in that letter. Has that letter been provided to us? It seems like you're counterpointing some points that are made in some letter.
It's the engineering letter that you were provided with.
The engineering letter. Okay. I don't see that in the email, but okay. We have other applications tonight, and we have a lot of members of the public wanting to speak on other applications. So if we could please try to speed this along, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll wrap up quickly then. So the only other ones that were asked for testimony in the letter, just for the sake of housekeeping, In terms of landscaping, item H, we do not propose any new landscaping, but we also do not remove or alter any existing landscaping. Regarding item I, where testimony was asked on site lighting, we would comply with any requirements for safety, security, and also for shielding of lighting on site. And you are correct to note, we're not proposing that because that needs to be coordinated with the property owner. And then regarding item K, the deliveries, I do believe were pretty well testified to by Mr. Caverly and what those would entail. And then item L is a restatement of the site triangle, which I have addressed prior. And then lastly, I would say for signage, while no signage is proposed as part of this application, we would either comply with signage requirements, or if a variance were sought, it would be under separate application. And I feel like that accounts for all of the comments within the letter.
One other question, if I could, 4C addresses waste management and recycling. How do you foresee that to be handled?
So based on our understanding of Mr. Caverly and Buscardu's needs, this area, which was off the parking lot, but still within the property line, was adequate for his requirements and would potentially be adequate for retail requirements with a low garbage demand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have no other questions from Mr. Ralph at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Beekman. We'll hold the rest of our questions until your testimony is over.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll hold all questions. Are you through with your application presentation?
We are at this juncture, yes.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll open it up to board questions. Just before we do, I was going to ask for just a couple of things to take in mind. The first thing I'd like is that we will make it a condition of the application that you're going to keep the work in the site triangle compliant with the testimony. And I think that said there was a restriction on the height of the walls for the outdoor seating area, and I think it was limited to 1-inch poles. But any other testimony that you had provided, we'll consider it a condition of the application. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
and that's acceptable to you?
That's acceptable, yes.
Oh, okay, excellent. The second, and I know it's going to come up through the questions, we don't have a good parking plan. And one thing we're going to need to know before the end of this application, or at least before we vote on it, is how many parking spaces are required and how many are going to be provided on the space, so that we know what kind of variance you're asking for, if you're asking for a parking variance.
Fair enough, yep.
Okay, I think with that, we can jump to board questions. And why don't we start with Mr. Fitzgerald?
I have no questions.
Well, that was easy. All right, why don't we go next to Mr. Capoli?
How's that, okay?
We can hear you good, Mr. Capoli, thank you.
Okay, I also had some questions on the parking. If there's going to be employees parking, depending on the number of parking spots you put there, there'll probably be a reduction of 4 parking spots, seeing as you suggested that you probably have 3 to 4 people working there. So I think that's very important that we should do that. Also, the cars parked parallel to the back of the building. It appeared to me that you're blocking the delivery door. So one of those spaces, in my opinion, should probably be eliminated, if nothing else. I'm sorry, I missed your hours of operation. If that could be repeated, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Caverly?
Sure, it's generally 6 to 6, might be 6 to 7 in Belmar.
Okay,
And we
thank
have,
you.
just for the record, it's we have no more than 3 people working at a time.
Okay. Okay. Your delivery times, we're in an area of a school there. And the school, you have a crossing guard and everything there. Will your delivery times be before school hours?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to probably ask that to be a condition of the application as we vote on it. It's very important to protect our children, and there's quite a few on that corner.
If I may just comment on that, if that is a condition of any approval, I would just ask that it be outside of school hours, because in the event, it makes more sense to have deliveries in the evening as opposed to the morning. we obviously would like to have that option.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold you to any morning or afternoon, as long as it was definitely considered and you're done at the best time for both. Because we do have a lot of children there. It's actually a horrible intersection in the morning. So there's a lot of traffic there. Is there any?
Mr. Capoli, if you wouldn't mind, could I interrupt just real fast and ask Mr. Bianchi if the town has any regulations on deliveries for businesses in the area?
That would be more code enforcement, John.
Okay. I guess
There's
then,
a time in
Mr.
I'm sorry, there is a time in the ordinance that you can't have deliveries before a certain time in the morning because of the noise from the trucks.
I got you. I guess then, Mr. Capoli, and maybe more to you, Mr. Kennedy. I mean, I think what we would like to say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the applicant works within the town code. I don't know that we can put a different condition in the application around delivery times that we might not be able to enforce. And maybe Mr. Kennedy, you tell me if that's an acceptable condition to apply or not.
I mean, we could obviously they have to comply with the town code requirements, and if you want, we can say that they're going to use the good faith efforts not to do this outside of the school hours.
Mr. Capoli, does that sound reasonable to you?
I would definitely accept that. You
All
know.
right. And Mr. Beekman, that sounded acceptable to you as a condition of the application?
Yeah, that's acceptable. And I think Mr. Caverly wants to certainly work with the town and be a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
I also have another question on the outside seating area. Is there any plans for canopies or anything like that over those areas? And particularly the one on the side?
Greg, do you have any comment to that?
A portion of the outdoor seating area has been considered for either an actual cover or a pergola style cover, which was reflected on Mr. Savino's plan. So yes, there's been consideration towards a portion being covered. It's not the applicant's intent to roof or cover the whole structure.
All right, the last question I have for everybody. Handicap spacing, particularly on the Main Street side. Once the tables are put there and the chairs are put there, there'll probably be one person facing the Main Street side. I would like to ensure that we have enough clearance for handicapped people to get their wheelchairs or whatever they're using, canes or whatever, to get through that area. Some of the areas in town have gotten crowded. I'm not sure of the actual measurement. We would let the town or Mr. Bianchi or somebody, check into that. But that would definitely also be a stipulation of my thing, that we take care of the handicapped people. That's all I have.
We would absolutely have an accessible path, yes.
Yeah, because what happens is you put the table there, you put the chairs there, and the distance between the curb and the back of the chair shrinks quite a bit. So just please keep all of that in mind, and I'd appreciate that.
Just for clarification, there's nothing proposed on the Main Street side. Is that accurate?
Correct. We don't have the property there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Capoli. Mr. Malengo, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to continue a little bit on Mr. Capoli, one of Mr. Capoli's comments, space 14 appears to be blocking the rear entrance door for the customers. Ralph, anybody?
I can comment on that. I think the testimony was, we agree there are probably some deficiencies with some of those spaces. We have to probably look at that.
So 2 spaces will be eliminated, reducing your parking, correct?
Possibly. We don't know yet. We really have to look at that. The problem that I have with and my client has with the application is he doesn't own the building. He's only looking to rent the 1 space. And I don't expect the board to vote on this tonight. I'm hoping to get some feedback from the board and the public so that we can go to the landlord and explain to him, these are things that we're going to have to provide before a continuation of this hearing.
Okay, the second question, is there any provisions for separating the residential property to your property as far as cars coming in with lights? I don't see any fencing going back there between the residential and the area that you're renovating?
There's an existing fence noted on the survey that would persist, and
That's a chain link fence. I don't think that would
correct.
help with any lighting trucks or anybody pulling in there to protect the neighbor.
Well, the neighbor is, the property, that neighbor is actually part of this property.
Okay,
But point noted, and again, it's something I think we're gonna have to take back to the landlord to have some discussions with him.
okay. No further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo. How about Mr. Hutchison?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to say I'm excited about a new business in town. I think we'd like to encourage that in any way we can. A question about waste disposal for customers. Are we going to locate appropriate trash bins and things like that for areas that are outside on Main Street, so on and so forth? Because it sounds like most of the materials that you'll be giving to customers are disposable, hopefully recyclable, but a lot of times if there's food or liquid contamination, they don't want them recycled. So I'm not sure how you're going to handle that, but I'd like to see that addressed. Most of the questions I've had have been answered. I think the most important one that I have is, besides muffins, what are you going to provide?
Sure. Yeah, we do hand pies, which are pies you can hold in your hands, like the shape of an empanada, but it's pie crust all the way around. We do scones. It's a lot of British style baking. So yeah, muffins, scones, hand pies, peanut butter and jelly bars. We make our own granola bars. We also do breakfast sandwiches, granola, oatmeal. Trying to think what else. Stuff like that.
Okay, thanks. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I follow up with a question on that if you don't mind? Mr.
Sure,
Cavalier,
Mr. Beekman, go ahead.
thank you. Mr. Cavalier, is there any, when you said breakfast sandwiches, is there any grease?
No, we're ventless. We have no vents. So yeah, it's all a reheat process through a small Mary Chef oven.
Okay. I just wanted to make fire code, obviously grease, there's additional things you have to do. You understand that?
Yeah, we do not have any grease issues. The only grease we have is in essentially half and half in whole milk. So
Okay.
yeah, the plumbing, they do make us put in a grease trap, but we really technically don't have any grease.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beekman. Mr. Hutchison, you were all through? Thank you. That goes to Mr. Palmisano.
All the questions I was going to ask were already asked and answered.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Zenovich.
Hi there. Agree with Mr. Hutchison. I thought the application really looks great. I'm excited to see this kind of business go in this location, especially. I did have a question though, because I know there's a lot of construction going on at the site right now. So this proposed use is just for like half of the building that's currently under construction, is that correct? Because it looks like there's the two other units or former retail units will still remain, but they're getting rebuilt. Looks like Mr. Ralph is.
That's correct. Yeah, so the area of construction was a possible 2-tenant space that Buscardo is taking as 1-tenant space. And yes, that leaves
Okay.
those 2 existing retail slots. That's correct.
Okay, good, that's helpful. And I thought the outdoor seating on the 11th Avenue side looks great, and a canopy would be a nice idea. And I understand that you don't have enough information yet to figure out about tables. I wanted to ask you about your hours, and just if you would think about, especially if you're going to go back to your landlord or you're still considering how you're going to run the business there. There's not really a lot of places to go after dinner in town. To kind of hang out or to enjoy a coffee. A lot of places that are around close early. So you may find that there's business opportunities in the evening, especially when the weather is nice, that people want to sit and enjoy a coffee, decaf or not, or a little dessert. So you may have business that extends, past 6 p.m. or past later afternoon. Let's see. I did want to ask also, I know the chain link came up that's in between the parking lot and that existing residential unit. And I think it would be helpful if the property owner did replace that chain link fence, since with the increased traffic there on the site, obviously you're going to improve the parking lot itself significantly. So improving the fencing would only be natural to improve the whole situation that as it exists now.
Fair comment.
And I think all my other questions have been addressed. Oh, I think you did mention, Mr. Hutchinson also mentioned about the paper supplies that you use. And I think I did want to ask, do you use like large plastic cups for do you do cold drinks? Kind of, and are they in large plastic cups? I'm just asking that because that just adds bulk to your trash and to the trash in the neighborhood as people discard their trash.
Yes, we use recyclable plastic cups and a strawless lid. So we don't use straws at all. And it's, I think, a Pete 1. And it says, we have it on the graphic, please recycle this cup. And for hot, it's paper cups.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions or things to comment on.
Thank you, Mr. Sinovich. Mr. Grigg.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. The landlord or your potential landlord, does he own the 2 existing retail spots and the spot that you're going to take and the home that's to the east of this location? Does he own all that?
Yes,
Anybody?
he does.
This is all, it's all one lot right now, yes.
And then the parking, has he promised that to the other retail locations and to the home also? Or is this promised only to the coffee shop?
It's promised to the other businesses, but not to the home, as far as I know.
So then when you are required to have parking, that these 2 retail businesses are sharing those parking places that you're counting for your use? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yes, I believe so.
That's correct. And that was the source of the engineer's comment about the shared parking testimony.
So then we really need to know how many spots are assigned to those other businesses, I would think, and then the remainder would be yours. Is that correct?
It's my understanding that, I mean, I don't know the logistics of how a town views it, but from my point of view, it was simply a shared parking lot.
Yes, that item E in the review letter mentions the provisions for in the CBD 1 district, off-street parking being provided in public parking lot or shared use parking lots. And so I believe that was going towards this parking lot being designed as a shared use parking lot, which would take into account the hours of operation and intensity of use. And then that would be up to you, of course, as the board to determine if you felt that was sufficient.
So then I guess I really need some clarity on that. Maybe how many parking spots are you as a business required to have? Is there, are we looking at that? Because a lot of our dealings deal with retail, with residential, and we count the number of bedrooms you have, and that determines how many parking places you need. And in this case, no bedrooms. I'm not sure how that actually works. I'd have to.
If I may, I'm sorry, Mr. Grigg?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. You show up Mr. Lisco on my screen. So
I usually change the name.
that's okay. That's okay. So if referencing your engineer's report on page 4, which is section D, it does indicate that the required off-street parking for Mr. Caverly's use is 10 spaces and 14 spaces are shown with no ADA. And again, I want to emphasize that I understand that we're probably going to have to talk to the landlord a little bit more about some of your questions, and we were anticipating these. The other comment, it says in this same section, though, off-street parking calculations did not account for the outdoor seating area or the other storefront on the property. The area for outside dining is approximately 735 square feet, and the remainder of the building is approximately 2,000 square feet. These areas would require 14 additional off-street parking spaces, which the plan does not show, and it would require a design waiver as opposed to a variance, which is a difference from the standpoint of the municipal land use law.
I see. I guess when you talk to the landlord, then you'd have to determine how many parking places he's allowing for these other retail locations.
Well, I think it's really a matter of how many parking spaces we can legitimately put in here that are going to be safe, and proposing a design waiver based on that, regardless of what the other uses are, as long as they're permitted uses in the zone.
The only thing I would add to that is that there was no, in the application, this one or the prior, there was no expansion of footprint of the existing structure, and this parking lot was existing as well. So I just think it's worth highlighting that Mr. Caverly's business of Boosker Do is not intensifying any demand on the property by ordinance beyond what was there. And the parking area is the same as it was prior. And if you look at some satellite imaging, you can see somewhat of how it's been used historically. And so I just put that up for consideration, that it has functioned that way, and he will not intensify that use.
Yeah, I think wasn't it a real estate office prior to this?
It was, and just for the record, I believe they used the proposed outdoor space as parking spaces as well.
So those spaces are lost for your outdoor dining.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on Mr. Ralph's testimony there. Just there is one caveat to what he explained, is there is the outdoor seating area being proposed in lieu of parking spaces. Presumably, it will result, though, in some off-street parking places available that aren't available today.
All right, that's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greg. I just have a couple quick questions. I know you're going to get back to us on the parking, so I'm not going to ask any additional questions on that. The waste recycling handling area, can you describe that? Is that your roll-off dumpsters and they're in a PVC containment, something like that?
Mr. Caverly, why don't you explain what you normally do?
Sure. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, the bulk of our stores are use the large home style ones with the wheels, the PVC ones, the plastic ones. One of our store in Asbury has the big giant dumpster, but we're sharing it with 3 other restaurants. So when it's just us, having 3 or 4 of those PVC bins with the wheels on the back is sufficient.
And are they rolled out to the curb for pickup, or do you have a private service come in?
Oh, we can do either one, whatever the town requires. About 2 of our shops have private service. I know in Fairhaven it's just, it's both actually. The town comes one day and we have a private service coming another day.
Okay, thank you. My other question was, I think I heard Mr. Ralph discuss the compatibility of the shop and its, I guess it's crowd load with the other businesses in town, because the rush is before and after, I guess, the main business hours. It sounds to me like that rush is going to coincide with school drop off and pickup. It's a pretty congested area, and I don't know that affects much. I just kind of wanted to mark it on the record that maybe you consider that, and maybe just do a little bit more discussion on how this application is going to work in that school zone for everybody. I think a lot of that will be resolved with a parking lot that flows well. I think that's a big part of the answer. For me, anyway. Sure. I didn't have any additional questions, and unless there is any from the board, we'll open it up to, go ahead, Mr. Zenovich.
Sorry, thank you. I just had one more suggestion for the parking situation too. If you can consider when you speak with the property owner about no overnight parking in that lot, and to be cognizant of people who very well on a very busy, say Saturday in July, may park there and walk up to the beach. So I don't know how that gets enforced, but that's just something to be mindful of.
Yeah, generally, I think you see that there are signs posted that say it's a private lot, and anyone parking there would be towed. I think you see that at Klein's. I think you see that at the ice cream shop. I can't even think of the name. Strollo's, yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's
that it from the
senile
board?
like the rest of us.
All right, April, will you run the public portion, please?
If anyone from the public would like to comment on this application, please click the raise hand button. When you come up to speak, please state your name and address. Okay. But we have one couple, hold on. Okay, go ahead. Your
Yes,
name
my
and
name is
address?
Marvin Van Heis, and my wife and I own 610 11th Avenue, which is I think it's the fourth residence up from Main Street eastward, diagonally across from the firehouse. I basically
No, sir, I'm the board attorney. We're just going to swear you in to make this all official. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I so swear.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm not opposed to the application. Dunkin' Donuts just done quite well there, and I'm not opposed to having some competition. I'm just concerned about a couple of minor things, I think. One, I believe that the parking lot that is to the easterly side of the building is a combination of stones and asphalt, if I'm not mistaken, or an old paved lot that's not in great shape. And I would be concerned because my house actually has an L-shaped property that runs northerly and then makes a sweep to the left and comes right up behind those properties that do front on Main Street. And I am concerned that we do get quite a bit of sheet water that runs from some of the properties across my property and then ends up coming down the driveway and into 11th Avenue. And I would just ask that whatever is done to improve that parking lot, that the township engineer pays particular attention to the water discharge to where it flows, so that it doesn't flow to the back and come across into our residence in the back lawn and on out down our driveway. I have to trust the township engineer to do that. I'm also, we get our fair share of trash that tends to, when the wind blows from the westerly direction, I tend to pick up, napkins and things of that. And maybe people just discharge them, but I would ask to echo some of the comments with regard to some sort of fence. I kind of like the idea of something, maybe an improved chain link or fence or something along there that would just catch anything that gets dumped out. It has a tendency to get hung up on a fence like that, and they could police it pretty well. And the other concern, we've got one restaurant that is on Main Street, and a couple times in the summer, they had loudspeakers out back, these huge loudspeakers, and I'd be in my house and I couldn't hear the TV because they're so loud. And I never raised the issue much because COVID's make it tough enough on the businesses, particularly restaurants this past year. But if you have outside dining, which I'm certain after COVID, a lot of people were really focusing on that in the future, that I'd like to know if you plan to put music out there outside. I see that there's the outside dining on 11th. I'm not sure whether there's any provision anywhere else, but I just ask that if anybody's going to have any music, that they would keep it down to some sort of a normalcy, because they can be pretty annoying to us. But in general, I'm very favorable of the idea, and if you can work it out, you do have to bear in mind that there are no parking, quite a bit of no parking in that first block because of the firehouse and the sweep that the fire trucks have to make to get out of there. So there's no, this during school hours, you know, traffic does tend to back up when people are trying to find places along 11th and elsewhere to get their kids into the school. So those are just some of my concerns, but I wish you well in resolving these issues, because that corner property has been deteriorating for a period of time, and anything it looks to me like a lot of work and a lot of money is being put into it, is going to improve, as far as I'm concerned, the site in that area, and that pleases me. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Van Heist.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi,
Yes,
Karen, we
what's
can hear
your
you.
name?
Hi, sorry. I have the property, I guess it's like 2 down on Main Street. It's where Belmar Jewelers is.
All right, if you could just state your name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Karen, and the last name is Carl. It's C-A-R-L.
All right, and your address?
1006 Main Street.
Okay, and thanks for zooming in. And just like we did with the last caller, do you swear that the testimony information you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to echo, I mean, we're really happy to see, you know, things being revitalized down this way, and, you know, happy to see new businesses come in. I guess one of the things I wasn't sure about, to be honest, in the discussion is I know there was talk about a fence, and it seems like it's a fence next to the existing house that's there. But I wanted to point out that I guess when you drive straight into the lot, that is facing like 2 backyards. So it's my neighbor and then me. And we both have commercial and residential there. And so we have, you know, people living there, sleeping there, whatever. So I was thinking, I think there used to be a chain link fence that was removed. And perhaps we could have a fence put towards that side of the lot as well, so that we could, again, like block any paper or, you know, stuff that might blow. And also, like the issue of car lights had come up for anybody who lives back there and is trying to use those backyards. And then beyond that, I would echo what the gentleman that spoke prior to me said about the music. There is some very loud music being played nearby. And I know it can cause some issues with people being able to relax in the evening and enjoy their home. So I would just ask that, you know, anybody coming in kind of keep that in mind and just be aware of it if they're going to have outdoor dining and music outside. I know there are ordinances about that, but I just wanted to echo that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public?
That was it.
All right, seeing none, we'll close the public portion. Mr. Beekman, we can keep going with our board comment. If you want, we could hold our board comment.
It would be appreciated if we have some board comment.
Okay. All right. With that, I'll try to go back in the order that I started in, and I'll go right to Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I have had the pleasure of being at the Red Bank store, and a local county business like this deciding to set up shop in Belmar is really a positive influence for the town. I agree with the comments that the property has previously been somewhat derelict, and I think sprucing up that corner with a quality business like this is a great improvement to our main street. starts extending down a little bit south of where most of the investment has taken place. And I am very much in favor of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Malengo, I believe you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm also welcoming you to the town. I think it's a great business. It's a good spot. I would like to see the parking issues resolved so people can get in and out of the building and deliveries. And I would like you to consider putting up some type of solid fencing for the light, even though the adjoining neighbor may be one of the owners. As you can see, as the public spoke, other areas will be affected by the lights coming in and out. But otherwise, very happy with the application. Good design, Ralph, and I would be in favor of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo. Mr. Capoli. Nope, you're still on mute, Mr. Capoli. Nope, still on mute, Mr. Capoli. Can you hear us?
There we are. I also am in favor of the project. I think it's definitely gonna, like my other board members said, improve that area. It does definitely need some addressing. I just hope that we could resolve a lot of these little problems, parking, handicap spacing, drainage and all of that. And I think if we could solve all of those, I think it's going to be great. I think it's needed in town. We are getting rid of an eyesore. And if the parking could be, worked out and some final numbers given to us, I would like to wish you all the luck in the world. We need that in town. Get rid of some of these vacant buildings, and I think it'll be a great help. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Capoli. Mr. Hutchison, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too am in favor of the application. I think it's an improvement to the whole area in the town. And I was just hoping that I would be able to go there. When I saw a bakery, I'd be able to get my French baguette there, but we'll go with the morning goodies that you're going to have to offer. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Mr. Zinovich.
Hi, everyone. I don't have anything really additional to add other than I think the application looks terrific. And I do hope that you're able to resolve everything. I think it's going to be a fabulous addition to the town. Appreciate you coming here and investing in town.
Thank you. Mr. Palmisano.
I think it's a good thing for the town, just as long as they have the fence up so you're not disturbing the neighbor. But outside of that, I think everything's fine.
Thank you. Mr. Grigg?
I'm basically in favor of the application. I just have a few things that I would like absolutely clarified. Would be containment of rubbish, the potential for lights on the outside of the building, which I think you said you had no intention of doing. Noise possibly being held down to a certain maximum level, and the traffic crossing the sidewalk during school hours. The traffic on the sidewalk during the school hours is my main concern. I'm thinking of people in a hurry going to work, getting coffee, and maybe not paying strict attention to what is in front of them, trying to put their coffee in their coffee holder in their car. But if we can somehow deal with those issues, I'm not sure what we need to do, but I'm basically in favor of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. I too am in favor of the application, and I think all my concerns and the concerns that I heard during the hearing here have been asked and will be addressed by the applicant. Typically, at this point, we ask the applicant, "What's next?" I think it sounds to me like you'd like to adjourn the meeting for now. Well, get a chance to look at the questions we have and then present additional testimony. Is that? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
Mr. Lisko, it's an interesting case because normally what I would probably be asking here is a vote on the use variance side of this application. Though I don't think it's technically a use variance because we're not increasing the use of the single family home. the way it's been presented by your engineer would indicate that perhaps this is a D2 variance and expansion of existing use. We would, from a legal standpoint, I actually take the position that it is not that, because we're not doing anything with the single family home. So sometimes what we would do as attorneys is we would ask the board to bifurcate the application, vote on the use variance side of the application, because there's really nothing we can do as was testified to when it's related to the single family home, and there's nothing that we're proposing to change anything with that. But interestingly, what did not come up tonight, which I'm kind of surprised that didn't come up tonight, is a proposal by anyone to say, what if you subdivided the single family home off from the lot? The zone requires 7,500 square feet. The single family zone adjoining this requires 7,500 square feet. Although to create a separate lot with parking and with the commercial space, we would not be able to comply and give the single family home 7,500 square feet. So we would require variances associated with that property if there was a subdivision of that property. But I don't have a landlord who would even agree to that, so I can't even propose that. So we're here before you based upon this existing lot. And the only reason why it's laid out the way it is because you have one lot that has on the east side, single family home, on the west side, a 3 or 4 unit commercial space, divided in the middle by this parking lot that has been in obvious disrepair. So I think what I would ask for tonight is for the board to vote on the use, so that at least my client can understand that he's able to continue to proceed and use the property for his Booskerdoo coffee shop and bakery. With us coming back, or perhaps even the landlord coming back to address the site issues, which is obviously the more complicated thing that everyone brought up tonight, including our own experts and our client relative to this application. So with that, I think that there is sufficient evidence, and normally I might have a planner with the use, but I think there's sufficient evidence. It's pretty clear that the use that we're proposing has nothing to do with what's not permitted in the zone. It really has to do with the commercial space on the zone. So we're not expanding anything that is not permitted in the zone at this time.
Mr. Kennedy, let me ask you that question. It was my understanding that this is a restaurant in a retail zone, and that they're asking for the variance as part of that. I don't think we've bifurcated a application before, taking a vote on a partial. Is that typical? I mean, personally, I'm a little uncomfortable voting on an application that's not whole at this time, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Sure. So a couple of things. So I mean, to your point, the application was not presented, so to speak, as a bifurcated application. I guess my concern would be, and again, I don't want to overstep my bounds, so but what I've heard, what you all have just said is some of you might be of the opinion, it sounds like you don't think you're going to have an issue with this, this variance, provided that the parking is there. And so I think some of you, sounds like, want that some of those site related issues addressed before you vote on the, the big issue. And then I guess the question then becomes, well, if you do bifurcate it and you approve this part of it, what does that mean? They're still going to have to come back and then provide you with the parking site information, and if they don't, what does that mean? But anyway, here's, Mr. Chairman, maybe, and Jeff, I sense your eagerness and totally understand it. Mr. Chairman, there is, again, this is a rather unique situation too, so I don't know if this helps, but there is the possibility that if we don't do what Mr. Beekman wants and we adjourn it to whatever the date certain is, and then he comes back and gives us the information that you wanted. If he got the approval tonight, an outright approval, obviously the resolution wouldn't be adopted to the next meeting. Given we have had so much testimony and given your expressed general support of this application, provided those other issues are worked out. I mean, Jeff, what about if, and again, I'm thinking out loud, if the board, we just carried it, and then you had a vote at whatever your next meeting is, provided you give the testimony, and if the application's approved, and if the board's so inclined, I could have a resolution of approval done for that night, since we're already as ahead as we are, and that would at least, Jeff, significantly reduce a lot of your time issues that would otherwise have to wait. Is that, even before I ask the board, is that something that would be somewhat amenable to you?
That would certainly be amenable, Mr. Kennedy, if you'd be able to do that. The reason why I propose this is more so to the fact that my client's role in the lease is associated with the space itself.
And we get that.
Whereas the landlord's role is the site. So we understand that before the applicant would be able to open up, that the site will have to be resolved. And that's something certainly that we must convey to the landlord. And again, I wish I had the landlord on the meeting tonight so that he can hear what the board members are concerned about. And I anticipated this. I think, everyone, you obviously have all done this for a long time, and I expected that there was going to be a lot of pushback with parking, lighting, and fencing and those kinds of things. So I have no objection to that, Mr. Kennedy, if that's what you want to do. That just so my client understands, that was why I had proposed that. So let's if the board's inclined to do that, I'm okay with that.
Mr. Chairman, I think that would give the board level a little, some of you sound apprehensive about approving it until you see the rest of the information, understandably.
I think that's a great solution, Mr. Kennedy, and I appreciate your willingness to do it, Mr. Beekman. Our approvals go with the site, not necessarily the retail use, and that's why it's a big issue for us. We like to know exactly what we're voting on across the entire site, so I appreciate your willingness to work with us on that.
Sure. Well, and understand the D2 use is related to the single family as opposed to the commercial more than anything. But
it's an unusual application.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Kennedy, then what's next? Do we ask for a motion to?
We then go to our friend April to find out what type of continued hearing date.
So our next regular meeting is May 27th.
And does that give you enough time to, I don't know if you need more information or you need to submit plans. I don't know. But if you're submitting details, you'll need 10 days in advance.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do, just so we can keep this on a short string, is keep that date. And if there's any reason why we would have to ask for an adjournment, I can certainly ask for an adjournment. But my client, Mr. Ralph, myself, are certainly going to have to talk to the landlord, encourage that we have an engineer involved to address some of these issues.
Okay, so April, that was May 27th?
Yes.
All right, so Jeff, just for the record, do you, on behalf of your client, consent to extend the time frame within which the board has to act on the matter?
Absolutely, and I don't think we're beyond that time frame anyway, even with May 27th.
Great, and then what we'll do is, for ladies and gentlemen of the public, we're going to carry this to May 27th. I know we had 2 members from the public, so please Zoom in that night, May 27th at 6:00 p.m. April, right?
Yes.
And there's not going to be any further notice from the applicant or Mr. Beekman, so this is your notice. And now, importantly, Jeff, you just got to give me a call a couple days before the meeting just to remind me that the whole thing about the resolution thing. Mr. Chairman, sometimes I forget things, so Jeff will remind me. So I guess we could just have a motion to carry this to May 27th, 2021, 6:00 p.m. remote meeting without the need for any further public notice.
Mr. Chairman, I have a single question before we vote on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Malengo.
Okay, I guess my question would be for Mr. Calvary and Mr. Beekman. So it's my understanding when we figure out all these parking issues and whatever parking lot related issues are resolved, whose responsibility is it to have that put in place?
Well, any plan that's approved by the board is going to have to go to the construction official, and there are going to be certain conditions with the resolution that will be required to be completed before the business can operate.
Now, my question is, who's responsible to complete that portion?
Well, it depends on what has to be done, but right now, the lease that Mr. Caverly has with the landlord is the landlord's responsible for the exterior.
My concern is the landlord's not here tonight.
We understand that, and that's why we
Yes.
didn't expect a vote.
And Mike, it's an excellent question, and the answer is whether it's the applicant or the landlord. What's going to happen is Ted and April will not sign off on the final approvals until whatever work is supposed to be done is done. So whether if one of them doesn't do it, they're not going to be able to open. So I think your point is well taken, but the other side of it is April and Ted will not let this place be opened if what is supposed to be done is not done.
Thank you.
Motion to move or adjourn.
One second, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Beekman, and maybe April, you can answer this. Just because we're so busy, if you're not going to be able to have this application ready for the next meeting on the 27th, April, when would we need to know that? If they gave us a heads up, say by May 13th, would you have time to replace that spot on the schedule?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Beekman, could you just give us the courtesy of letting us know that by May 13th, whether or not you intend to proceed?
I will do my best, yes.
That's terrific.
Yes.
All right, we had the motion to carry made by Mr. Fitzgerald, and I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Beekman.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments as well as the public.
Thank you.
Certainly. Do you want to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and discuss Verizon, how they want to move forward, and then listen to our next application. So let's meet back at, let's make it 10 minutes. Let's meet at 8:15.
Recording. We'll do a quick roll call. Everybody's got to unmute. Okay. Mr. Capoli?
Here.
Mr. Palmisano?
Here.
Mr. Malango?
Here.
Mr. Zenovich?
Here.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mr. Gregg?
Here.
And Mr. Lisco?
Here. All right, welcome back, everybody. I guess first up is Mr. Kennedy. Did you talk to Mr. DeLucre, or do we need to talk to him
I
now?
started to speak to him, and then we got disconnected. I believe he's going to carry, but he was interested in a new hearing date, and I didn't get that far.
Yeah, I have him here on the call, but I can't unmute him. He has to unmute himself. So I don't know if he wants to try to leave and call back. Or try to rejoin, but I can't unmute him. He's got to do it.
I'm hoping he can.
Oh, looks like he just dropped off. Maybe we'll see some progress here.
April, at the very, very beginning of the meeting, when I had him on my speakerphone, did you hear him?
Not very loud. You'd probably have to
Okay.
move the phone closer to your microphone.
Phil, that would imply that I know where the microphone is on my computer, but go on. That could be him.
Hello.
Oh,
That's good.
I think, Rich, maybe hang up your phone. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, we just did. Thanks.
Okay, so Rich, you fully on?
I think so, but you'll be the judge.
Okay. April, you can hear him, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Rich, we only have 5 eligible voters tonight, so I apologize for that. And before we got cut off, before you were saying you do not wish to proceed with 5?
That's correct.
Okay, so April, what's the date upon which we can have him? I know he's anxious, given he's been here. What's the available date? I know the agendas are tough.
May 27th would be our next regular meeting.
I'm obliged to ask, even though I think I know the answer. I had heard mention earlier about a special meeting. If there is one, is that already booked?
It is.
Okay.
And I think, and just so you know, I think we have 3 or 4 applications on that night already, correct, April?
Yes.
So that probably, Rich wouldn't be really great for you anyway.
Understood. Of course,
all right,
we'll consent to extend the times necessary for the board's action.
Thank you. And April, what was that hearing date again?
May 27th, 6
All right,
p.m.
May 27th, 6 p.m. remote meeting. And there might be, Rich, some people from the public zooming in on this. So, Mr. Chairman, we're just going to clarify again that this is going to be carried. You're not going to have any new notice. This is your notice. So if any of your friends didn't get to zoom in tonight or had to leave earlier, please let them know. We're going to come back May 27th.
Yes.
At 2021 at 6:00 p.m. With this remote setting. And Mr. DeLucre consented to extend the time frame, so we appreciate that. And Mr. Chairman, just for record-keeping purposes, we should have someone make a motion to so carry this application.
And just to clarify that this is so the public knows, this is for the application of Verizon Wireless for 1715 Ocean Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, I have before we make the motion to carry, I would just have either a suggestion or a question, and I wouldn't want to wait until May 27th to ask.
Hold on, Mr. Kennedy, can we ask questions here, or is that?
I'm assuming it's a procedural question, Mark?
Yes. Will the owner of the property be part of that hearing on May 27th?
We will relay that request to Rich that we were asking at the, thank you. And also, Mr. Chairman, just so you and ladies and gentlemen of the board know, our borough planner is online tonight, Christine Bell. She was going to be prepared to address some issues and as well. So we'll have her notified to come back too. And Rich, you can, you've heard the request for the owner's representative to be present as well.
All right, I will reach out to the owner on that.
Okay. Good point, Mark.
Thank you. Was that it, Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes, so I'd like to make the motion then.
Thank you, and I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lucre.
If I may ask April a question, we keep pushing these people around. How about all our other residents have been waiting and they keep getting pushed back? And
Well, that's why we're having a special meeting in May. And at this rate, we might need one for June.
okay. I know we're behind, but there's some people that have been waiting, for a while.
Well, Bob, good point. And we have to make these meetings go faster or add time limits, because it's not fair that if everybody takes up all the air of the night on one application, and then it means we're not going to hear all of them. So somehow we got to speed this thing up.
Well, I think we should be very careful. Maybe let Mr. Kennedy weigh in on that. I don't know that we should be suggesting the applicants speed up their testimony, but Mr. Kennedy, what do you think, or what have you seen in other boards?
You know what? Why don't I, if you want, I'll just take a small sampling and I'll present a memo of what some other towns do. I'll just take a real quick, nothing really expensive, nothing elaborate, and we can just sort of see how other towns handle this. And then we'll have a better discussion at our next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be terrific. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
But again, to everyone's point, I think that's, let's, we got to be legal and we got to do things that are going to stand up in court, but we want to be open and inviting and accessible to our residents. So I think, I'll see what other towns are doing and we'll come up with something if that, and we'll talk about it next time real briefly.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Commissioner.
don't want to cause a further delay with the application.
I'm sure once we get done with this COVID stuff, that'll change.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
but in the meantime,
And incidentally, just so you know, this type of conversation, I'm a board attorney other places, and I'm an applicant's attorney other places, and it's sort of the same thing going through with every town. So we'll figure it out.
thank you.
Excellent. All right, so we're up to our next application and final application for the night for Larry and Barbara DiBianchi at 1808 B Street.
All right, and as the applicant team comes forward, a couple things. So Ted, we're going to swear you in for the second and final time tonight. Ted Bianchi, you're the construction official and the zoning official. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you guide?
I do.
Okay, and then we had a couple of, this is a continuation from March 25th, and at that time, my notes reflect and my memory reflect that some of the board members had some questions or concerns regarding a need to see elevations, a need to see dimensions, and a need to eliminate some clarificate or eliminate some inconsistencies or confusions between plans and real life. So April, I believe we have a couple of things. A4 is going to be a plan of survey prepared by Valley, VALLEE Surveying Inc. And that is dated April 6th, 2021. So that'll be A4. And then A5, April, this is a property survey. And this is prepared by Christopher Lantine, land surveyor. And that's dated September 9th, 2013. So is that something we're entering into the record, April?
Yes.
Okay. And then last is A6. And Mr. Chairman, these are floor plans and elevations prepared by Architrave Group PC. And it is dated March 18th, 2020. And it's April, do we have any, I'm sorry, those consisting of 3 pages. April, do we have any issues with people who were not here last time and here this time, or vice versa?
I don't think we actually really had any testimony last time. Did
I
we?
think we did, because we had, I mean, I have notes.
Well, Mr. Capoli wasn't here. And Mr. Hutchinson, were you here for this one? I don't. You're on mute.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, so it's just Mr. Capoli wasn't here for that.
Okay, so Mr. Capoli, if we vote tonight, you're not eligible to vote, but you're still able to participate and ask questions and make comments and all those good things, okay? Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, should we turn it over to the applicant's team?
Please do.
Okay. So, who's going to take the lead on the applicant side? Conchita, is that you?
Yes. Hi, how you doing, everybody?
Good, thank you.
Good. So I understand the couple of concerns we had was the elevations, which I believe was satisfied by the drawing marked A6 from Architrave Group. We also had a concern about the current survey to show the length from the window that was deteriorated and damaged really bad, just to make sure that we were within, and I believe it was 26 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And we were able to satisfy it that it's at 30 feet. So we're fine with the setback from the window to the fence. And that's actually at the shorter point. So it's actually even more on the longer length of the fence if you look at A4 of the survey from Valley Surveying. So the application, what it's for is actually 2 things. One is on the original application that Ted denied. And we were able to do the bathroom in the back area if we removed the roof over, or the roof structure over the paver patio, which we did, and the whole screened in porch, which we did. The thing though that was not totally satisfied is the garage, which I had expressed to Ted that we were going to apply for variance to keep the garage versus making it smaller or eliminating it. And the main reason is, of course, storage, parking. It's a very small house. It's a very small lot. So those are the main reasons. And we knew that if that garage was eliminated, the possibility of getting another garage would be very difficult. So we wanted to make sure we could grandfather that garage in that's been there existing. And then the second piece was for the variance was pertaining to the existing front porch, which again, Architrave Group has provided the drawings with the elevations and more detail that you had requested at the last meeting. So that front porch, what we're really doing is we're just replacing the existing porch. First off, because the structure is not sound. That's number one. And number two is that because they're going to be retiring down here, they want to create one of the bedrooms larger for themselves, which is the bedroom towards the front right of the house if you're facing the street to the house. So they wanted to extend that bedroom into the porch area. So the idea was to make a portion of the porch into a bedroom. The footprint will stay the same. We are not changing the footprint. We are not making it larger. We're keeping it exactly the same. We're not adding a second level addition or anything else. So, and then that was really it. So any questions or how, at this point?
I think we'll hold all our questions to the end of any testimony that you have.
Okay.
So, yeah. If you could just refresh my memory on exactly what variances you were requesting here.
Oh, one was for satisfying it was for a setback for the front porch on the right side of the property because the right setback is shorter. Okay, and then the other variance was to keep the garage regarding the building coverage and lot coverage, actually.
I asked a question. I was waiting for an answer, but I was on mute. I guess we'll all find yourselves guilty of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did answer. Did you hear me?
No.
Was wondering what's going on.
I heard you list the variances, but I asked a question about the average front yard setback. Did that get solved?
Oh, I did not hear that. I did not hear that. So the average, let me get that. Hold on a minute. So regarding the average front, well, he doesn't have it on here. That's great. The average front setback, Jerry, do you have that information in front of you? That was done by Valley Surveying.
The original survey did not have average information on it. It just provides the length for each of the homes.
Right, but it didn't provide the full average. It just provided everybody within the that side of the block that was requested. I believe Ted, if I'm not mistaken, requested that information for us to submit it.
That's right. And was it submitted?
Yes, it was submitted.
Ted, is that right?
With the original documentation.
I'm just looking through my records here. April, did we have that question answered? Is that right?
Yeah, I have it. There's a plan here for it, John.
from March 25th meeting? That's probably what I don't have here.
Yes, it was submitted for that meeting.
Okay. All right. And did you have anything else to add?
No, I think it's pretty much clear cut. We just want to make sure that that front porch is going to be, is not going to be a safety hazard, because if you go to the property, you'll see that the steps are deteriorating. The actual, one of the footings needs to be replaced. I mean, there's several options we could go, is we can pretty much lift everything, fix it from underneath. But the main portion is that they want to make that bedroom larger. So when they retire down here, they have a large enough bedroom for themselves.
And Mr. Chairman, I have, this is Kevin, I'm looking at what was marked as A2, is that it's the building setback location plan. Ted, would that have been the average setbacks, you think?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. All right, and there's no any additional testimony then?
Larry, did you want to interject anything else in this conversation? Are you, Larry, can you hear us? I don't know if he's muted.
He's not on mute, but might need to turn his.
Larry, can you unmute yourself from the computer?
He has his volume off.
Does his computer not have a microphone, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Jerry, is there anything else you want to add?
No, you explained it just fine. If
Okay.
there's any questions, we could assist.
Well, Larry's having problems. No, we can't hear you, Larry. Oh, yes, it would be so nice to do these meetings in person again.
I think he has his volume off on the computer.
Larry, do you have your volume off? There's a button on the bottom that says mute or unmute. You need to press the button so you can unmute yourself. Now, okay, Larry? No,
It's got, it's with his computer. If he doesn't have a microphone on the computer, it might not be.
Right.
He could call in if he wants.
Larry, you want to call in? Here, you know what? Can I call him on the phone?
Yeah, as long as we can hear him.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if there's anything he wants to add. Larry, is there anything else you want to add as far as any comments?
No. You know what? I'm sorry. This is Kevin. Just for the record, just state your name, please.
State your name, Larry.
Lawrence Bianchi. And you were previously sworn at the March 25th meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you understand you're still under oath?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So nothing else to add, Larry? You're good?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, I'm going to keep you on speaker in case they ask any questions, okay?
Okay, good enough.
Well, we'll hold our questions. We'll go down the line and ask questions. I just wanted to know if you had anything else to add to the testimony.
No, it's just, you know, Larry and Barbara just want to set their roots in Belmar and just trying to make the house, you know, livable for retirement, pretty much. So
Excellent.
the bedroom is like the biggest thing, plus the garage, because the garage is a big storage area, you know, with the size of the lot being very small.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, why don't we open it up to board questions again? And why don't we go right to Mr. Fitzgerald?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess it's a question, maybe an observation. On the site survey, the measurement of 30.14 feet, that is not the closest measurement. That actually appears to be the extended measurement, because if you went to the other side of the window box or moved the line down, you know, closer to where the corner of the garage is, that distance becomes shortened. So I just want to make sure that the record
Oh, I
is
see what
correct.
you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's saying it's 30 feet and it's not, it's less than 30 feet. And I don't know if 30 feet is triggering a rear yard setback variance, but I would just like to get clarity on that if it is, because we want to make sure that you're asking for that then.
Right, the rear yard setback, if I recall, actually, the rear yard setback is 25. Okay, and let me just make sure this is the full version I have. So 1 inch equals 20 feet. I could get my ruler out and do the measurement right this second if you bear with me. Or Jerry, are you doing it? Jerry might be doing it himself.
Let's just make sure it's accurate before we finalize the application, because that is not an accurate measurement as reflected on the drawing right now. So
Okay,
it's actually taking the longer measure, not the shortest measure.
shorter measure. Jerry, are you measuring it out yourself?
I have the valley surveyed. I'm going to put a scale on it down.
Okay, you're gonna put a scale.
And I understand when this, that the work began or the work is underway, and then subsequently there was realization that a variance was going to be required, but the original agreement was that the garage was going to be removed.
The original, yes, the original agreement was that the garage was going to be removed and rebuilt. Okay, so they were going to file a variance to rebuild a new garage.
Rebuild a new smaller garage?
A smaller garage, correct.
Okay.
So I had a conversation with them. I said, you know what, before we go through all of this of extra expense, because that's what it is, a major extra expense, let's see if we can keep the existing garage versus knocking it down and then building a smaller garage to, you know, so we could meet the requirements for the.
Well, couple comments, having visited the site, or questions. I will change them into questions, but
Yes.
the garage is in severe disrepair. It's oversized. Obviously, when you walk into the backyard, it becomes automatically, you realize that the garage is just a very imposing structure, and it doesn't look very structurally sound. So
I did not have an engineer check it, so I cannot state that for a fact.
it's not in good shape, to say the least. And so,
Okay.
and also aesthetically, it's not in good shape either. So would you consider either removing the garage or replacing it with a smaller garage?
Larry? Did you hear the question?
If that's gonna change, if that's gonna hold everything up, then I guess I would have to, you know, because I'm this far in the game. So
Okay,
if I had to remove it or make it smaller, yes, I would. But
so you would be
I would like to-
open, you would be open to knocking it down and making a smaller garage if that has to be done?
if it's necessary, yes, I would do that.
Okay, did everybody hear Larry?
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I appreciate the revised drawings, and it's a significant improvement over what we saw in the first time you came in front of us. But I would, in my own case, ask that you make that change. So I have no further questions.
Okay, so the garage is one thing, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Next, we'll go to Mr. Malengo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple questions, Conchetta. Now, your original permit for the additions that were completed at the rear of the structure.
I don't know what.
Was that subject to the garage being removed?
Yes. And then I came back and said, well, it was subject to removing the garage and putting in a smaller garage.
But you know,
Well, my question to you is, if that was the consideration, the garage is in very bad shape. I was there myself.
Okay.
And why wasn't it removed or stabilized, or why wasn't
we were
why wasn't
going
any
to-
of the size of the new garage presented to us at the board?
So we were going to originally just restructure the existing garage. And what I mean by restructure is we were gonna have an engineer come out and say, this is what you need to do to make it structurally sound. We didn't get to that point, and the main reason is because we wanted to see if it was possible to even keep the existing garage with this variance application. And if it was not, then of course, the next step, as was mentioned by Mr. Fitzgerald, is by replacing the garage with a newer garage and smaller.
Well, I don't know how we would be able to vote on the application if we don't know the size of the garage, or where the location of the garage will be, or what the construction will be.
Well, the location of the garage would be in the same spot. It's not going to be moved up or anything of that sort. And we have to abide by the setbacks that, you know, if we're putting a new garage, this is what I'm assuming is we're going to have to abide by the setbacks.
Okay, so, but we have no design of what will be the new garage or the
No,
location.
because the goal was to keep the existing garage and just to have the engineer come out to give us the information of how to make it structurally sound.
Okay, so in other words, what you're saying is you're not gonna make a smaller garage.
What
You're
I'm
trying to keep
saying,
the existing garage reconstructed at the same size?
no, this is what I'm saying, that we were gonna first put in and see if we could keep that garage. And if we could, then my engineer was gonna come out there and give me a letter of how to make it structurally sound. Okay, so that was the goal, to keep the structure as is, and then just adding the beams where it needed to be, adding some 2x, and any type of Ticos or bolts that would need to be, you know, to make it again more secure than what it is right now. So that was the original goal. And the main reason is to not create an extra expense, an extra, you know, large expense for the client to build a whole new garage. Plus, now we would have to look at a smaller garage, which means we would be storing less items in there.
Well, I appreciate your concern about trying to save the client money, but we don't know what you're building, how it's going to be reconstructed. Currently, the garage has no foundation. It's basically built on the ground.
Right,
So
and that's.
that information
yeah.
should have been brought to the board, so we can consider it. If you had these ideas, I think we should have had that information here to review as board members.
Okay.
The second question is.
So I understand what you mean by that. I do understand.
My second
Okay.
question is the front porch, which is, as you know, in disrepair.
Yes.
Is that going to receive a full crawl space foundation?
Right now, Jerry, that's a crawl space, correct?
It's not.
When it underneath.
Today it is not existing. It is proposed to be new.
It is
footing
proposed to be,
foundation.
okay.
Okay,
Thank
so
you,
full
Jerry.
crawl space foundation under the porch and the addition.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm
That's,
sorry,
I
Well,
didn't see
there is
that on
no
the plan.
addition in the front.
It should, well, no, they're calling the room addition to the house.
Oh, the addition. Okay, sorry. Okay.
I believe the elevations, it shows the dotted new foundation going down to meet the existing.
All right, and Jose, just for the record, just state your name, please.
Yes, actually, I'm glad you said that. Mr. Santos had a medical emergency in the eve. My name is Gerard Spanola. I am his associate.
Okay, you were not previously, all right, so your name is Gerard?
Yes, Spanola, S-P-A-N-O-L-A.
And what is your relationship to this applicant?
I am employed here at Architrave Group, the architect's office.
Okay, and are you an architect?
I've been in the field of architecture since 1987. I attended Mercer County and NJIT, and I'm currently qualified for the examination and begun testing. I'm hoping to finish shortly.
Okay.
I have offered some testimony in various boards in New Jersey and New York as an architectural designer. If that's acceptable to the board, I can offer some insight on this application
All right.
as I did
just-
assist
just
Mr. Santos.
Let me just state, so you're not an architect, but you're an architect designer.
Correct.
Okay, let me just swear you in before. Do you raise your right hand? Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge? So help you God. I'm sorry?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, did you want to hear more about his qualifications?
Well, it sounds like he's not a licensed architect, so I guess maybe can we accept him as someone who's speaking on behalf of the applicant, not necessarily an expert? Or do we need to accept him as an expert?
Yeah, I don't know. So why don't we just, what did you want to say, Mr. Spinola?
Simply, I was just going to respond that I know Mr. Malanga asked about foundations, and in the proposed design drawing, it is indicating that we have new footing to align with existing shown on the elevation. So it is proposed to put new footings, foundations, floor structure underneath that porch to support all the new work, including the porch and the bedroom.
Okay, but my question is, and I think I just want to clarify, because Conchetta said there's no addition. I understand that the master bedroom will be partial addition and the porch will be rebuilt to the left. Am I correct?
Correct. When I would means no addition is we're not going beyond the existing footprint of the house and the front porch today. Yes, by your definition, you are correct. There will be additional footage added to the home and shortening the porch, but the overall footage will remain the same. It's not getting any closer to the street than it is today.
No, but the addition is going to be part of the porch. And the porch will remain, and underneath that porch, there will not be piers, it'll be a full crawl space foundation. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Okay, no further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo. Next up is Mr. Hutchison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think most of the questions I've had have been answered. I appreciate that the revised drawings and plans and things like that. I think the fact that we don't have drawings for the garage, we don't know what's going to be there, I think is a sticking point. So I guess I would like to see that before I vote. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Next up is Mr. Palmisano.
I would just like to see what drawings they're going to have same for the garage and the layout of everything else. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Zinovich.
My question is about the impervious coverage. I'm not clear on what the percentage is now from the last meeting. So what's the impervious lot coverage here?
Jerry, you have that information?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
On the SP1 drawing, on the very bottom of the chart, it speaks of impervious coverage. If you want, I can share that. I believe I have the ability to share.
Sure.
So in this portion right here under lot coverage, the impervious coverage is permitted at 55%. The left side chart is everything that's existing as we run down the numbers. You have the house and the garage total. You have the gravel area that's on the survey, which the surveyor advised us is computed at 50%. The existing walks, patios, and pavers, and there is the only addition to that is you'll see, if you look on B Street, the front, you'll see where the front walk is being expanded to meet the opening of proposed new porch. So that's hatched as you look on that site plan to the left on the same sheet right here. So that brings our total impervious. As you can see today, it's 71.85%. And there's going to be an addition of about 0.5%. That'll take us up to 72.832%.
So then with the discussion about this about the garage structure and it sounds like the changes that are going to happen there, will that impact this percentage?
If the garage is brought down to be compliant with current accessory structural setbacks, which is structure setbacks, which is 3 feet as indicated by the township requirements, it will reduce the amount of impervious because building coverage will come down. So that first item, house and garage, will become less.
Right. So is it possible to remove the gravel and sod that small backyard that's there and to remove some of that brick that's next to the garage once that construction's there?
I think that's something we could speak to the owner about. I know
I'll
Larry's
ask Larry.
here.
Larry? The gravel area in the back, are you open to replacing it with sod?
With what?
Sod.
Grass.
Grass.
If that's what we need to do, then yes, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So in essence, that would reduce the impervious drastically, take 215 feet off, which will
Right.
get it below what it is today, as will the reduction of the garage.
Right. Okay, thank you. I think that's
you.
helpful, those changes. And I would ask that you would make that grass I guess it's called a condition of the application.
Okay.
So noted.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Was that it, Mr. Zinovich?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Capoli, I know you're not a voting member tonight on this application. Did you have any questions?
Actually, I do. I did review the site on the week I was not able to attend. And I also reviewed it again, I believe it was yesterday. And a lot of my concerns were with the garage, unbeknownst to me at that time, which is only 2 days ago, that the garage was now going to be put back. My comment on that garage is it needs to come down. Comment, that's all that is. And I presume that all the plumbing and the electrical permits were taken out. And what is being done with the outside of the structure? What's going on with the outside of the structure?
New vinyl siding is being installed, but we are replacing, there's a bunch of plywood that is damaged or sheathing that's damaged that we are replacing. And we're getting rid of where there's areas that were rotted. But the reason why we haven't done the siding yet is because the siding has to tie into the front of the house with the new porch construction.
I understand that, no problem there. And the other question I have is the patio in the back.
Yes.
Now you can correct me if I'm wrong because I may have missed this on the last review I made. Was that patio supposed to be impervious pavers?
That's the existing patio that's been there for many years.
Is that
There
being?
was never a request to change the patio. The only thing that was requested is that we remove the screen and porch, which was over that patio.
Okay, was that patio counted in the pervious coverage?
I believe so, Jerry, that was included, correct?
Correct, yeah, in here we
Yes.
have
Okay.
walks, patios, pavers.
Okay, just want to double check.
And the other question I had, in viewing the house in its entirety, your electrical meters are in lousy shape.
Yes, we already know that.
Pardon?
Yes, we already know that.
Okay.
The electrician already has it on the list and we've already been in contact with JCP&L.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. The other one I have would be for April. April, if you could send me whatever I need to do or read or go over so that I can be a voting member next time, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have at this time.
Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you, Paula.
Thank you. Mr. Grigg, I know you're not a voting member tonight. Did you have any questions on this application?
No, I have no question.
And I am not a voting member on this application either, and I have no questions. Before I move, well, I guess before I move forward with public comment, I thought I heard at least two board members, Mr. Malengo and Mr. Hutchison, say that they were concerned there were no garage plans. Is that still a concern after hearing answers to all these questions, Mr. Hutchison and Mr. Malengo?
Yes, add me to that too, Chairman. I stated that either removal of the garage or reduction of the garage. If reduction seems to be the option, reduction requires garage plans to be shown to the board. So it makes it very difficult to agree to the application without understanding the dimensions and location of a reduction to the garage.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that there are at least 3 members of the board that are uncomfortable moving forward with a vote tonight without additional information. There are 3 that are not eligible to vote listening to this. So I think we may need some additional information. Mr. Kennedy, unless you say otherwise, I would open it up to public question and comment right now to hear what the public has to say, and then we'll come back and decide what our next move is.
Sure.
Okay, with that, April, would you open it up to the public comment?
Please remember to state your name and address before you speak.
Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue.
All right, good evening, Ms. Sharkus. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, in addition to what Anne Marie mentioned about the gravel, I thought at the last meeting we had, the discussion was that the gravel was going to be removed. Did I understand that from the last meeting, Kateta?
Oh, hi, Linda.
Hi.
There wasn't any final decision or discussion on the gravel, but based on the minutes of the meeting or the discussion tonight, it seems that it would be best to remove the gravel and replace it with grass or sod.
Okay, my second question is, what is currently behind the garage? There's been no discussion of what goes on in that space.
There's actually pretty much nothing there except for the fence and a lot of shrubbery and landscaping, overgrown shrubbery and landscaping.
Okay, so that doesn't have gravel back there. Because if that has gravel, I would think that too also had to be removed, should be removed.
Yeah, I will double check, but the last time I was back there, it was a lot of grass and weeds and shrubbery and so on. There's no gravel, right, Larry? No gravel. No
Okay,
gravel.
that's good. All right.
Thank you,
Those are my
Linda.
two. Thank you.
Next one, go ahead.
Hi, Joyce Rollins at 1806 B Street. We just
Hi,
had
yeah, this is Kevin. I'm just going to swear you in. If you could just spell your last name, please.
RAWLINS.
All right, thank you for participating. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
We just had a concern because our insurance adjuster came out and presented us with an increased bill stating we had to approve or repair our construction siding, the siding on our house at 1806 Street. We went down to the house and found that it was actually the siding of 1808, which was resting against our house, that now has made a problem with our insurance adjuster who's due to come back. So we want to make sure that there's no construction materials or debris that are being loaded onto our side of the property or leaned against our house at 1806. We now have to, again, work with this insurance adjuster to not have our rates impacted and prove that it was not our house that had a problem. So I just wanted to bring this up tonight, that especially with that garage, because it's within maybe 12 inches, that it's very important that everything stays on that property and not come over the line.
So I just wanted to confirm, if I'm facing the house, are you the house to the left?
We're the house on the other side of the driveway.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure where you were located. We did remove all debris from the property. I actually had, because we had an issue with the dumpster getting placed there because of the wires and so on, we actually had it hauled away personally by a garbage hauler. All right. I can go there tomorrow and double check the job site and make sure that there shouldn't be anything else that's at the job site. Last time I was there, the only thing that was left was 3 pieces of wood that was in the backyard. And I'm talking about like heavy wood, not small pieces that could blow away. That was in the backyard of the house. But again, I will personally go there tomorrow and make sure and check that there's nothing on your property.
We would appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh,
I don't
you're
know.
welcome.
I don't know when the insurance is coming back, but he had taken photographs of this siding leaning up against our house, and that's what impacted our appraisal. So I would appreciate that.
Do you know when the adjuster went out to your home?
I don't know exactly the date that he went out, and I don't know the date that he's coming back.
Okay, well, like I said, I will be there first thing tomorrow morning. I should get there like around 8:30 in the morning, if not sooner, and I will personally check it and make sure that there's nothing there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins.
Were you there today, Larry?
I was there today.
Yes.
And there's nothing in the driveway. And I've been there a lot over the course of this project, and I've never seen anything leaned against her house.
No, I have never seen it either, but she might be implying that there could have been like a strong wind or something that was blown into her property. That's what she might be, again, she wasn't there. It's the adjuster who went there and took pictures. So we can't say for certain what the adjuster took pictures of. But you're right. We did clear up that whole property. I've had the property cleaned at least 4 times already. And there was no debris the last time that I was there last week. I did not see anything there, but I want to rest assure her that I'm going to go back there tomorrow and double check and make sure that there's nothing there. And I know you were there today, Larry and Barbara, and you saw that there was nothing. But again, I just want to rest assure her, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it is my responsibility as the contractor to make sure the site is clean.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jean.
Eugene Creamer, 4th Avenue.
All right, good evening, sir. Welcome. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I just have a procedural question. Can the zoning board members review the YouTube videos of the meeting and then become eligible to vote on the application?
Yes, April has the recordings. So in the good old days, we would either review the transcripts or the tapes. And so now April, they can go online and you can give them the view of the video of the meeting, correct?
Correct.
So, yes. So the answer is yes.
Okay, good. That might be useful in moving, you got a busy agenda.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
There are some advantages to technology.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
Excuse me, can I say something?
Yeah, Larry, do you have a question?
So that last person and the first person that were on, they're giving addresses of 4th Avenue?
No, the last person had nothing to do with that. He was asking about the YouTube meetings, and I believe it was not pertaining to you at all. And the other person on 4th Avenue is right behind your house where the fence is located. And she just wanted to make sure that there was no gravel back there in regards to your impervious coverage, which we already satisfied.
Keep on telling me stuff in the yard.
Okay.
All right, you're on tape, so you're being heard.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, hi, this is Patrick Cunningham. I'm at 1810 B Street. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening. Welcome. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My question just to, or comment is just to Conchetta, similarly, debris and stuff just coming over to our side. I keep finding it in the backyard, papers, wrapping, stuff like that.
I actually had, it might have been a month ago, I had someone go into your backyard. They actually knocked on your door, but you weren't available. We saw some pieces go into your backyard and Joe went back there to take it out.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great if you could keep that. And then I think, I don't know if it was you when they did it, like one of the windows, there was just a bunch of stuff kind of like left in between the house. It was just.
Yeah, I had that all removed. I went to the job site. Again, that was like a month ago.
Yep.
And I went to the job site, but I'm gonna be there tomorrow and I'm gonna make sure that there was nothing left behind.
Yeah, I get that. I believe it. Just, it sounds like the work's going to just start, right? So, a lot of work's going to start. So just like an ongoing thing. That's
Well,
all.
when we start the work, it's gonna be a little bit different at this round because we're gonna have one of my guys that does the cleanup is gonna be there on a daily basis.
Okay, great. Thank
Okay.
you.
That was the last of the public comments.
Thank you, April. So the public portion is now closed. And I guess we're back to a procedural item here.
You could stop the screen share too.
Oh, is that Jerry?
Yeah, I believe so. Yep,
There
there
he
we go.
goes. Okay, great.
All right, so we've heard a request from at least three of the board members for additional information on the garage. Do you think you can get that to us in a reasonable amount of time?
I did have a question though, before we go into that garage. And I don't know this, so you guys tell me if it can be done or not be done. Is it possible to just vote on the front porch area? And the reason is because I know this has been dragged out a long time and we're just trying to get it livable for the clients and also structurally safe.
I think that's a reasonable request, but Mr. Kennedy, unless I'm wrong, and just like our last application, we don't separate the votes. We're voting on the entire site, up or down.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, that yes. I understand the request, but yes, that's true, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All
Okay,
right.
So Larry, did you understand that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't hear? Okay. I had requested if we could do a vote on just the front porch
Yes, I got
area. Okay, but the vote cannot be done just on a portion of the work. It has to be done as a whole application. That being said, we have to, unfortunately, go into the next meeting, schedule the next time, where we have to have Jerry provide drawings now for the actual garage and what's going to be built in that spot. Okay, so they cannot just do a vote on a portion. It has to be as a whole.
I guess once again, I have no choice in the matter, so I guess I have to wait, yes.
Okay, so a couple of
2 years now,
items.
just so you don't know, 2 years.
I know. So a couple of items, Larry, is that one, the gravel in the back, we're going to replace with the grass.
All right, well, we can
Okay.
recapture that.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
thank
do you want to give the applicant a continue date?
Yeah, April, what's our next available meeting for this?
Are we able to get on the special meeting?
That agenda is full already.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would it be possible, I mean, it's a garage and it, as long as it meets the setbacks and we have a set of, reasonable plans, how much can you do with a garage? Could we vote contingent on approval of the plans at some point and not have to bring this back to another meeting?
Well, I guess first we'd have to ask the applicant, is the garage that's going to be constructed going to be within the setbacks correctly? Because I don't know that I see that here.
Jerry, can you answer upon the setbacks over there for the garage?
Yes, according to the accessory structure, we'd have to be 3 feet from each property line. So we don't meet that today, but we can absolutely propose a new garage that would be within the required setbacks.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, if, again, at the risk of overstepping my bounds, just like we did the last time, a little bit unusual, but given the nature of the circumstances and where we are relative to this application, if it helps, if we adjourn this, I could have a resolution prepared ahead of time so that if at the next hearing when this is heard, if you like it, there'd be no downside, you could approve it. If that's your preference, and then we could adopt the resolution if that's your preference, and that would save because even if the application got approved tonight, it wouldn't really become, official until the resolution's adopted at the next meeting. So that would at least save the applicant the 30 days, if that would be the middle ground. And again, not the common thing to do, although we've done it twice tonight, but we would do it as an accommodation if the board is so inclined.
Once again, a great suggestion, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you for offering that.
Could I just further, if we could get, if the board could get a set of plans for just the garage, because that seems to be the only sticking point. So that if, we could even go on as a fifth applicant, all we would have to do is vote. Is that a possibility, so that we wouldn't have to push this, too many meetings ahead? Just a suggestion and a thought.
Is that question to me or?
It's the general question in the ether there.
Hutch, if I could give you my thought on that. If we have the width, length, and height, and then a recalculation on the lot coverage, I think what you're suggesting would make sense. But if it comes back and it's looking for a foot less than what that garage is now, that's not what the board is asking. It should be, the appropriate size. So, that's where we get sticky here, because, I know what a standard garage looks like, and I know the size of it. And if they come back with something that isn't that, then we're going to have an issue. So as long as they agree, a 1-car garage, not a garage and a half, and that you could say the width, depth, and height, and then come back with the drawings and the elevations. Yeah, I don't see any reason why we couldn't approve it with just a vote at the next meeting. And as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think it'd be a very quick presentation on the applicant's behalf.
Hold on, Larry.
Presenting, clear, concise information on the dimensions of the garage, and if there's no other changes.
If I can just ask one question with regard to that. So I just wanted to be clear. So it's not a full matter of compliant. No, for example, if it were a car and a half, I'm just asking this question, and it met all the setbacks, that wouldn't be acceptable. We're going for single car that meets all the setbacks. Is that correct?
Wouldn't you have a lot coverage issue?
It would be reducing the existing. It would still be more. We'll never get down to the max.
No. That was agreed to be knocked down before the construction began, remember? So I don't want to use that as an argument that garage was supposed to be gone. So
that's fair. Just wanted to ask. I just wanted to make sure I'm explaining the proper parameters to the homeowner. Thank you very much for the clarification.
I mean, one of my concerns is the permit was predicated on the fact that the garage was going to be rebuilt or reduced. That never happened. And now we're coming in front of the board to try to keep the existing structure, which is oversized and in poor condition. So I think we need to see exactly what's going to go there and how it's going to be built, and if it still presents over the coverage.
Well,
And
the
again,
way
I would
way
just
it's
say-
gonna, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm
Mr.
sorry, you go.
The way we're going to proceed is that we are going to meet with those setbacks, like Jerry said, with the 3 feet. And by removing the gravel and putting the sod down per Anne Marie's suggestion, which was a very good recommendation, that is going to reduce the impervious tremendously so that we can build a one-car garage and still be under the coverage and still meet the setbacks as presented.
But I didn't hear you discussing a one-car garage. I heard you discussing the same size structure.
No, that's if
That
we
was
were
there.
keeping the existing structure, but since we're
Yeah,
not,
If you,
we're reducing it to.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, we
Go ahead.
wouldn't, we're not planning on putting back the same size structure. And I apologize if that's what you ascertained from what I said. I just want to make sure, in other words, I had heard a description by Mr. Fitzgerald, who was kind enough to say, get what the garage looks like, and he's correct, a long, narrow type facility. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm explaining that properly, that, look, we're looking for a one car at best. Don't try and go car and a half. Don't worry about storage. You're going to store in this garage. So that was the only
Okay, so
question I had.
what size garage are you looking for? Give me the length and the width.
Again, I would say based on what's on the site, we're going to pull it in to make sure we meet the 3-foot requirements. We would be no more than 20, 21 feet in depth, and we'll probably be as little as 14 feet maximum, I believe. But we will put that on the site and make sure that fits. I don't want to commit to sizes that don't fit. So I will make sure we get that plotted properly, elevations, floor plans, and show that to you for your review.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I would just respectfully suggest that as is always the case, there's no guarantee, but they've, you all were good enough to sort of say the buzzwords and what you are, your individual concerns are and your collective concerns are. So I think the result is we're going to carry this, if that's the pleasure of the board, with the understanding that provided the plans get submitted 10 days in advance and provided they're, nothing, or consistent with what we all talked about tonight, and assuming that there's no additional public comment or public concerns, it'll be a fairly short presentation is what our hope is, and then there'd be a vote. But again, the applicant still has the burden of proving the case, but that's the concept, that it would be carried, and we'd vote, and then if needed, we'd do a vote on the resolution that same night. Again, no guarantees, provided the applicant gives you the information that you need to be comfortable with it.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Well said.
And so I guess April, I guess the issue is what date can we use?
I would say let's do May 27th. That's the night where we have continuations, and they should all be relatively brief.
You are so optimistic, April. I like that.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're going to carry this to May 27th, 2021 at 6:00 p.m. It'll be a Zoom meeting, presumably, and there'll be no further notice to the public. So Conchita, you and your team do not have to do any further public notice. I know we had 3 or 4 members from the public, so please come back tonight, tune in or Zoom in on May 27th, 2021. And Conchita, do you and your team consent to extend the time frame within which the board has to act on the matter?
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. And I guess, Mr. Chairman, we should just have a motion to adjourn that application.
I'll make that motion. Can I have a second?
Hold on, Larry, hold on a second. Larry, what they're saying, what they're saying is on May 27th, I'm just explaining it to Larry, okay? On May 27th, they're going to do the vote on the application with, the garage changes and so on. And at the same time, they're going to do it as a resolution, so you don't have to wait another 30 days. Okay, so they want to help you by getting it all done on the same evening.
And I guess just for the record.
Go ahead, Larry has something to say. I'm sorry, guys. Go ahead.
So this whole thing with the garage and everything, does the driveway have anything to do with it?
No. What?
So if we, I'm saying, if we just change something to the driveway, would that help keep the garage?
I think their main concern is that the garage is not structurally sound, and it is not abiding by any type of codes because there is no foundation on that garage. It's just sitting on the ground.
the garage, but fix it to make it secure.
So I don't know if you heard him. Larry was saying if they change the driveway where it becomes pervious versus impervious, would the garage still have to be removed? After, even if it, and yes, the answer is yes, it would still have to be removed.
And
And
we're,
then-
yeah, go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
I'm sorry, you go, Mr. Chairman.
I was just going to say, yeah, we'll look to you to present the application to us and what you're doing, rather than commenting now out of the sequence here.
Right. And then, Mr. Chairman, I was just gonna add, Conchita, we probably just need Lawrence's consent on the record to consent to extend the time frame.
Okay, Larry? Do you approve to extend it to May 27th for the vote in regards to not only the front porch, but also the garage?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I did hear the motion and a second.
I only heard a motion by Mr. Lisco. I didn't hear a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
All right, this application is adjourned and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your support on this. I really appreciate it.
And then just
Our
remember,
pleasure.
those plans have to be in 10 days before the meeting. at
Oh,
least.
Jerry, we'll have it, right, Jerry?
Well,
Okay.
and you know what? We asked the courtesy, if you don't think they're going to be ready, please let us know by May 13th.
Yeah, it'll definitely be ready.
We will be
Okay.
ready. We will. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank
Any other
you.
business, April?
Nope, that's it.
All right, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
second.
Krieg, and a second by Mr. Malengo.
All in favor?
All right.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night,
guys.
everybody. Thank you.